and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Tom Collins.
Here.
Clem Wozleski.
Here.
Mike Richmond.
Here.
Jim Galantino.
Here.
Margaret Gubernalty.
Here.
Mike Cristaldi.
Here.
Craig Palmisano.
Here.
David Carter.
Here.
Despina Hess.
Here.
Remy Pelosi.
Here.
Joe DiGirolamo.
Here.
Rich Patterson.
Here. This meeting is being held in accordance with due public notice thereof and pursuant to the New Jersey State Sunshine Law. Notice of this meeting was advertised in the press, and a copy of same has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. All applicants are hereby advised that should you receive board approval tonight, you must come forward and sign a form which informs you regarding the timing of receiving building permits and mercantile licenses. At the end of your case tonight, please see the board administrator to sign the two information sheets. I'd like to hear a motion to approve the minutes of December 22nd, 2016.
Who moved?
All in favor? Who moved? Opposed? Motion passes.
Hello.
Let the record show. So how we do this? Take a motion for. Do I hear a motion to, or do I hear a nomination for chairman of the board?
I'll make a motion.
Of what? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Any other nominations? All in favor? Opposed? None. Motion passes. I'd like to hear a motion for nomination of vice chairman, please. All in favor? Motion passes. I would like to make a motion to appoint Stan Bergman as solicitor for 2017.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much, despite my lateness, I appreciate it.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Johanna Casey as board secretary administrator for 2017.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
We need to swear.
Is there any, hey Johanna,
Yeah, she has it.
is there any members at Reese?
Yes.
Okay, the members that need to be reappointed and sworn in are Jim Galantino, David Carter, Despina Hess, and Clem Wozleski. So if all of you could raise your right hands, please.
Please stand up.
You can stand if you want, sure, stand and raise your right hand. You don't have to. You just stand and repeat after me. I state your names. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and in this state under the authority of the people. So help me God. I do further solemnly swear or affirm that I will impartially and justly perform all the duties of the office of planning board member according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations.
Congratulations. I would like to hear a motion for the approval of decisions and resolutions. 2017 meeting dates, number 48, 2015, John and Laura Gibson, and number 49, 2016. I'm sorry, that was 48, not 2016. And 49, 2016, Deborah Katz. You hear a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
All in favor? Motion passes. Where the order of the meeting is being changed, we are going to hear number 11 first, we are going to hear number 13 second, and then we will go in the order that's on the agenda. Mr. McLaurin?
State your name for the record.
Roger McLaurin.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Before he states, before he starts, Mrs. Cooper and always recusing herself.
Thank you, Board Chairman, Board members. My report was read into the record in December. The only changes I have is all required setbacks are being met, and the adjacent building due east on Essex Avenue, Lot 105, Lot 10, is within the CBD zone. There seem to be questions that were raised at the board last week. I do believe the board or the applicant has some additional exhibits to share with the board to help them make their decision. Oh, wait a minute.
Well, we're on the wrong case.
Oh, yeah. Scratch that.
No, we're doing 11 first, B&M Real Estate Development.
Which will do it, Mansfield?
Roger, here.
Yep. Well. Okay. I think we're ready this time.
It's our first day in the new building.
Yes. Thank you, Board Chairman, again, and Board members. My report is for tonight's hearing is written on January 26, 2017. Some background. This is in regard to 412 North Mansfield Avenue, minor site subdivision with C variances. The applicant is seeking relief from the ordinances of the City of Margate in order to subdivide one lot into two lots with only one lot requiring variances for lot width and lot area. As you can see with my zoning chart in the report and my documents reviewed, variances required for lot area for lot A, whereas 4,000 square feet is a required minimum and 3,600 square feet is proposed.
Roger, I think they might be making a motion for
I don't wanna
continuation.
waste- And I don't want to be disrespectful, but I don't want to waste any of the board's time. I can see you have a big night. I don't know if I
Appreciate
made
that.
this clear earlier.
There's a microphone right there. Microphone.
Yeah. All right. What we intend to do, assuming we have the permission of the board, we're going to pull this application without prejudice. So I don't want to see Mr. McLaren go through a whole big report because we would like to pull it if the board would grant us that permission.
Do you want to, you mean pull it or postpone it?
Pull it from tonight.
To continue it?
Yeah, and I may be able to explain some of the
That
reasons
would
to some
help.
of the board members. Here's the thing. My name is James Swift. My office is at 1335 Tilton Road, Northfield, New Jersey. I represent the applicant who wants to purchase 412 North Mansfield Avenue. We've had a tremendous amount of back and forth in terms of phone calls and dialogue with the person who owns the property, which is right next door, which is Mr. Robertson. He owns the property which is just to the bay side. What we've done is we have, in essence, as everybody knows, this application was designed to take a 90-foot wide piece of property and turn it into two lots, one being 50 feet, the other's 45. What we've done is we've reached an agreement with the contiguous neighbor to purchase 5 feet of his property, which is going to result in him having two lots, which are both compliant legal lots.
So you won't need a variance?
I don't think so. And that's why I don't want to come before the board. I don't want to waste your time because
Well,
what,
that's what we were gonna do anyway,
Yeah.
so you say what you're doing, you won't need a variance and won't need board's approval.
no, what we're going to hope to do is work through the engineer's office, and I don't think this application, as it's ultimately planned to be, is going to need approval by the board. But I'd like to pull it without prejudice in the event that something heads sideways that I'm not aware of.
All right,
So-
well, I mean, you can pull it obviously, but how long should we pull it for? I mean, give me an idea how long, I mean, I'm not gonna hold you to it, but I mean, you have to give us an idea. Because either you're gonna have to withdraw it,
Right.
and then have to reapply all
Right.
over again.
Let's just be on the safe side, and if we could have 1 month, honestly, I don't think we're going to need it, but just to be on the safe side.
How about till March
60 days?
with a stipulation that, that you're gonna waive any of jurisdictional requirements as to automatic approval?
We would consent, sure. But I think at the end of the day, what this project is going to ultimately be
I
is,
understand, I know about it, right, I understand. Yep.
I just want the audience to understand that what they're doing is they won't need a variance, they will have the land needed to do a subdivision.
If that is correct, if their negotiations go as planned, I guess.
I don't know, do we have public input at this point?
We're not gonna take any public input right now because there's no application pending.
There's no, go ahead and ask your
She
question.
needs to be
You
sworn
have to
in.
come up
You have to
then.
come up and be sworn in, but we're not gonna take, this is one exception. You have to be sworn in before you say anything.
State your name, please.
My name is Maria Woodruff,
All right, Ms. Woodruff, what is your address?
404 North Mansfield.
Okay,
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Go right
My
ahead.
question was, Mr. Swift had indicated that they were 5 feet short of what the variance would be required to.
The variance was because they were 5 feet short. Now they're
Okay.
gonna have the 5 feet.
And now you'll have the 5 feet, which would make, which would be each, what are the frontage on each?
50 and 50.
Okay, that's all I just wanted
Okay.
to know, because I didn't understand.
At the 50 is a requirement.
Yes, I know, we realize.
I know, and I know a lot of people are here for that, so that's why I'm doing this, so it's clear that they won't need a variance. We're not agreeing to anything here.
okay, so why don't we'll carry it to, the March meeting, is that okay? Johanna? Okay, we'll carry it to the March meeting, because we probably have a full slate next month. And we'll wait to hear Mr. Swift, the board administrator, will wait to hear from you as to whether you're gonna withdraw it or whatever, okay?
And hopefully,
All right.
can I make that application carried to March without the necessity of all new notices?
Yes, what we'll do is we'll notify tonight that anyone here for the B&M Real Estate Development, 412 North Mansfield Avenue, that's being carried to the March date, which is March
30?
March 30th.
March 30th at 6:30 PM at the same place.
And if the matter proceeds the way we believe it will, I'm going to notify Mr. McLaren, Ms. Casey, that we
Yes.
have it resolved and not
And then
take
you'll
up
go
any
through
more.
whatever the procedures you have to,
Yep.
yes, all right.
All right?
Thank you.
Thank
All right,
Thanks
sir.
for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
What? Osborne?
Yeah.
The next case is number 13, Kennedy J. Spat, D.O., 18 North Osborne Avenue, Block 216, Lot 11, in the S40 District, to grant a C variance, fence location, pool equipment location, and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. McLaren?
You're already sworn.
Okay. Thank you, Board Chairman, Board members. My report is dated January 24th, 2017, in regard to,
Oh, wait, is the applicant here? Okay, fine. Go ahead.
18 North Osborne Avenue, Block 216, Lot 11. The applicant is seeking a fence variance. The applicant is seeking relief from the ordinances of the city of Margate in order to construct a new 6-foot-high fence within a front corner lot. The area of the fence would encompass a pool and extend out to the public sidewalk at the property line. The property had previously received a variance for front yard setback along Winchester Avenue, I believe in early 2016, late 2015. The proposed pool was shown on the previously approved plans with a compliant fence. The previously approved pool equipment location is also changed, requiring an additional variance for side yard setback. Page 2, variances required. Fence located within the front yard is a C variance, whereas no fences are permitted within the front yard and one is being proposed. Setback for pool equipment, also a C variance, whereas setbacks of pool equipment is 10 feet from any side yard and less than 10 feet is proposed inside a garage platform. My comments are as follows. The applicant has indicated that the site is located within an S30 zone when there's actually an S40 zone. That has really no bearing on the application, just the clerical error. The prevailing setback was previously determined to be 19.1 feet, and a variance is granted to allow a 17-foot setback along Winchester Avenue. The prevailing porch setback along Winchester was determined to be 15 feet, and a variance to allow a 14-foot setback was granted. The master plan indicates that the absolute minimum front yard is 5 feet. The pool equipment was approved for the garage roof, provided that 10-foot setbacks are provided. The equipment was relocated into the garage on a platform. The garage, however, does reduce the noise considerably, and that can be deemed as a positive and meeting the intent of the ordinance. The parking requirements are being met without the garage space, although the plans approved for 4 off-street parking spaces. The applicant has indicated that the proposed enclosed area shall be made into a patio, which likely triggers another variance for landscape coverage. The zoning chart indicates 49% landscape coverage as proposed. However, washed gravel was placed within the tire treads of the driveway, reducing the landscape coverage. The proposed fence location would negatively affect the egress and ingress of the adjacent property's driveway along Winchester Avenue. A vehicle backing out of the driveway needs more than normal sight lines to avoid conflicts along the sidewalk and the street as well. The owner needs to provide and verify any information in regard to any easements located on the property, including overhead utility lines that exist, prior to any approvals being made or as a condition thereof. The shrub requirements for the previously approved application must still be met. No shrub over 18 inches in height shall be placed within the implied site triangle with the adjacent driveway. Any damage to, any improvement within the city's right-of-way shall be replaced at the owner's expense. My recommendations are that they have to satisfy the C1 and C2 criteria where appropriate, including positive and negative criteria components. I have nothing further to add to this, other than I have an additional note. Confirmation of safety shall be verified by the chief of police, herein copied on this report. No further comments.
The applicant come forward, please, be sworn in.
State your name for the record, please,
Ken Sabat,
and spell your last name.
S-B-A-T.
And raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm actually here to get your recommendations. I mean, we went as far as we could with the builder who told us this is what was going to happen. We met with you, Roger, and we don't really need the 17 feet. We were told to ask for it. We want to do what's safest and what's most cosmetically appropriate for our neighborhood. It's a brand-new home. We've been residents here for 16 years, living on South Claremont, and we now moved up into the Parkway. So we're actually asking for something. We have a small pool. It's 7.5 by 22 feet, and it's all in appropriate perspective. And all we need is a little bit more land just so we can put some chaise lounges down, so that we don't just have a pool in our backyard.
Where's the fence now? Is it right at touching the pool?
There is no fence here.
I understand that, but you have to have a fence. Is
Yeah,
it designed
the
to be
fence would be
touching the
touching,
pool?
right, it would be touching the pool.
I thought the 6 foot was from the fence. It's not from the fence, it's from the property line?
No, they're proposing to put a fence within the front yard.
I understand that. I'm asking about the rule.
They can have a fence right next to the pool? What's the purpose of the 6 foot if they
No,
can
it's
have
not
a
up to the
fence?
pool, it's adjacent to the house. Unless they move the pool.
Which is where the pool is.
No. Along Winchester Avenue, parallel to Winchester Avenue, there's gonna be a fence that's touching the pool, not 6 feet from the pool. Right now, as
Not
it
according
stands
to the
now.
plan.
As it stands now, not what he's asking for.
It was approved at the pool back before. I'm not sure what you're asking.
Rich, there's nothing in the ordinance requiring a specific distance between the pool and fence.
Okay, well, that'll be changed then. That was my question, because if that's not the way it is, then we're gonna propose
My
a change.
understanding was it used to be a 10-foot distance, and
To
we
the property
amended
line.
it to 6 foot.
To the property
To the
line.
property line.
So if it's the property line, then it's okay,
They
it
comply
doesn't
with the
apply
property
tonight,
line.
but we're gonna take that up then, that you can't have a fence right next. The whole purpose of the 6 foot was to be from the fence. But anyway, that's been cleared up for me, so that does not affect you.
Okay.
So the way it is right now, you're gonna have a fence from the edge of the house towards Longport, touching the pool,
From the edge of the house,
towards Longport.
yes.
And you want room to put a chaise lounge in there.
Yeah, just so we can have some room to sit, because right now, if we have it where we're told to have it, it would be right where the pool ends.
I know that, and what you're asking for, it goes all the way to the sidewalk, so what is it that you want? You're not
Actually,
asking for 17
actually, when we
feet?
met with Roger, I actually was asking maybe for 10, 12 feet, but your recommendation was, you should ask for whatever, and we can actually shorten it, or, depending on what would be appropriate. He didn't have all the information at the time, though, so in all fairness to you. But if I can get 10, 12 feet, which will be perfect for us, it will give me some room to put some chairs down.
Well, I don't know what went on between you and Roger, but at this point, I don't know what 20 or 12 feet will do to the neighbor. I mean, I would have to relook at the property and see where the fence would be.
Well,
Does anybody else on the board have
well,
the
they
same
call
problem?
it, we have pictures,
It's not a survey, it's a matter of standing there at the neighbor's driveway, backing out, whether you can see coming down Winchester Avenue.
That's one thing we didn't want, so they can see that. That measurement was done actually by our builder initially, and that was 12 feet back.
12 feet back from the sidewalk.
There are actual photos of the site taken the other day on my report. They want the fence.
I understand that, that's 17 feet. He says now he only wants this much, and I'm saying I can't tell what it is from a picture, whether that's gonna block this car.
Right.
It's an 8-inch scale. Roger, the sketch that came with, is that from the original?
That's the approved plan that was, came in for the zoning and building last year.
8-inch scale. This doesn't show the pool being in line with the Winchester wall of the house. Yet that's the way it's been built.
Yes, what's that show?
Why is,
What does that show?
shows, here's the 17 feet,
Where's the wall of the house?
back at 17 feet.
By the pool.
The wall,
The pool's over on the other side.
this is the pool. And there's, miniature pool, about 6 feet.
Clem, this is scaled pretty close to 8 inch. So you want,
Okay.
but I'm in agreement with you, I'm just saying this is,
But it doesn't appear to me
Right.
that the pool was built in accordance with the approved plans.
Thank you. No, this does make it clear. This shows that there's space between the fence and the pool from the approved plans, and that's not how it was built.
So
that means the
pool was set back inside the house?
Yes,
About how many feet?
I can't tell.
2 feet?
No, more than that, more than like 6 feet.
So instead of the pool being, the pool you're saying is 22 feet long?
Yes.
Maybe this plan's showing it at 16 feet long, and you went 22 feet long.
I think that's the source
Well,
of the problem.
Yeah. I didn't know how we approved something with a fence right at the pool.
When we purchased the house, we were told that we could have a pool, and the pool would extend to the length of the end of the house.
That's not what's on your plans.
Right, and that's,
I'm looking at the approved plans.
You were told the wrong thing.
yes.
Okay. Because, like I said, it's really small as it is right now.
I understand that.
But
I'm
is
not
there,
trying to
is
do
there
it.
anything that we can, the last thing I need to do is just, if I put a fence right there, there is no backyard. Can the board make a recommendation, a suggestion, or something, or an approval of some sort that would allow us to have a little extension beyond that area, just to give us some room, at least to walk? Because right now, it would be,
on your front step, on the top step.
Yeah,
It'll come right across your top step,
of the pool.
because the pool's in the wrong spot. If we take that across there, that fence across the front where it legally has to be, you're gonna actually go across your top step in your pool.
So the 17 feet from the end of the house to the street, the Winchester side of the street,
Right.
we can't get a variance to extend any further beyond that point?
We've been pretty tough on that, on
Your-
the fences in the front yard.
Your pool's already
But
in the
that-
wrong spot from the
That's
plans
the
that were
problem.
approved. That's your problem. The way your plans were approved, from those approved plans, you had seating between the pool and the fence. Now your pool's been moved forward 6 or 8 feet, and there is no seating. That's my concern, is I couldn't picture us approving a plan that had the fence right at the pool, and apparently we didn't.
Is that the is that the original,
Where'd this come from?
aren't there two, was there a
Construction
second?
office. That came from the construction office.
Yeah. Is it all right if my wife comes up here, because she was
needs
just.
to
She has to be
sworn
sworn
in.
in too,
Yeah, you
that's
can-
fine.
yeah.
She can come up.
So was that your plan or the prior owner's plan?
Prior owners. Well, the people who
builders-
sold it,
that was
the
the builder?
seller's plan. We just bought the house.
Okay, and the pool was there already?
No, we just had it built.
Well, you're the first occupants of the house, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, they bought it from the builder.
It's a brand-new
Or
home.
wait a
Okay,
minute,
she
wait,
needs to be
go ahead.
sworn in.
Excuse me, right,
May I
please.
have your full name, please?
Jacqueline Sabat?
And is it Queulane?
Yes.
Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, wait one moment. Okay, go ahead. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Oh, I didn't know what
No,
you wanted me
regard,
to...
the question is what this gentleman here is saying is,
What-
the originals say that the pool, that it's wrong. This drawing,
When
and the
the
way
f-
the pool is now is wrong.
When we bought the home, there was an option of a pool. And we decided not to go through the seller for the pool. The price was too,
Whatever,
a
right.
bunch of reasons. So we decided to get a pool after settlement. So we went to Swimmore, and he came to us with an approved plan. And Ray McCullough is our salesperson at Swimmore, and he told us that he dealt with Roger Rubin, and he said that everything was approved.
How long ago was this?
October,
that was me.
November?
That was Roger McLarnin.
Well, maybe before that, I don't know, we
Well,
went to
that
settlement.
will be a year ago. When did you start?
January.
March. Last March? Was it after last March?
They had to be.
Yes, it was definitely after last
Well, then
March.
this is the Roger right here, Roger McLarnin.
Okay, but we were only, new home buyers, and I'm just,
Look, I don't know if any of this is your fault or not, but apparently the pool was put in the wrong spot, which is unfortunate for
well,
you.
we were told that originally it was supposed to be wider, but then it would have impeded on our neighbor, over here, our neighbor.
Right.
So he said, well, you can make it longer and narrower. So we didn't know the whole, all
The space.
the rules, so we said, okay, that sounds okay, we'll go narrower and longer. And then
Okay.
we said, well, what about where the fence is supposed to be? Oh, well, you can get a variance. You can get a variance, and you can get a patio and whatever.
To you, he said this?
Yes,
Well,
so,
You.
no, Ray McCullough from Swimmore.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I said, why
so,
aren't you listening to me?
so I have to tell you, we've never done anything like this before, and we're trying to follow the rules. And then we came in and we met with Mr. McLarnin, and we asked him, and he said, well, you know what? Your fence is supposed to end right at the end of your home.
Right.
But if you have some side yard there, it's considered a front yard because you're on the corner. But if you ask for more, you might get something. So we did the whole variance thing, which was quite a feat. Very,
I've done it.
okay, so we did all of that, and we're just asking you, is there any way, we certainly don't want to impede with our neighbor's vision or sight of vision backing out of their driveway, but we're just wondering if we could have something to maybe have a few chaise lounges at the end of the pool.
All right, this is,
There's nothing to make me not approve it.
why, one at a time.
Because at this point right now, our whole backyard would just be a hole with no way to even sit
You can't
around it.
have a pool really, because there's nowhere to,
I,
Come in or
I
get
understand
around.
that, but you have a house with a small yard and you want to put a pool in.
and it's already
So-
in.
I understand that. I will poll the rest of the board, but until I see what 6 feet is, or whatever it is that fits a lounge chair, I could not
Excuse me
rule on
1
this.
second. Here's what Roger approved. See where the pool is from the side, in front of the house there? That explains it a little bit better.
Well, this is what we just showed him.
Yeah,
And it's-
Yeah, it's
it's-
highlighted at 17 feet.
17
back
feet,
4
the pool's in the wrong spot.
That's what I'm saying.
By
So
6
that's,
feet.
but they're saying Roger approved it. Well, he didn't.
didn't.
He
He
approved
approved
this.
this.
The pool was put in the wrong spot
Not
by
Roger.
Swimwear.
Roger didn't approve the wrong thing, the pool was put in the wrong spot.
With that in mind,
the
I have
signature on
sympathy
that.
for you. I would recommend that you postpone and come back asking for 6 feet or whatever it is, because I have to look at that property and see how 6 foot would affect that gentleman's backing out of his driveway.
Sure.
Now, if we are already asking for the maximum, which is 17, which we didn't expect to have a
I
fence
can't
along
give it to you
Winchester.
until I see it.
I understand,
Right.
but do we have to can you just,
Postpone it and not have to redo everything?
no, can you just back it up and tell us what we could have? Or do we have to redo?
Do we have to reapply for the variance? And all that? 'Cause that was a very tedious.
We're just gonna carry it to another day so you can prepare something.
You can say that you'd be satisfied with 6 feet, let's say, that you could fit a chair in there.
We just
I
need
don't-
someplace to walk. I mean, it would be horrible, we just bought a house that was very, very expensive. And to just have a hole in your backyard, 'cause I wouldn't even put water in it. If I can't have a place to walk.
I understand, and I would like to work with you, but
And
I
I-
can't do it unless I see it. If you would postpone this, and we
How
could
do
go look
we,
at
how do
it.
we officially postpone it?
Is that a third? Just talk to our attorney right here and
Oh,
he'll postpone
okay.
it. But
would-
we can look at it, and you can talk to Roger McLaren here and see what would fit a chair and satisfy you with a minimal impact on the neighbors.
Okay.
And come back
We
and
don't
say
want to
we would
impact
like-
our neighbors.
17 feet would certainly impact them. So if you
Yes.
come back at 6 feet, then the neighbor can look at it and see it. We can look at it and see it, and then see what effect that has on it.
Can you tell us your recommendation about the pool equipment? Is it okay
Yes,
that
we
it's in
haven't
the
gotten to that
garage?
yet, yes.
Oh, okay.
That, yeah, that's the separate issue.
It sounds like you know a lot about looking at the drawings. Could you make us a recommendation based on what you see there as far as what would be, I mean, I'm looking at other people's houses in the neighborhood where they have the same scenario. And quite a few of them do have
Very small
But-
pools.
Sir.
small pools with fences.
So you don't, but you're, in your property, you don't really have, you're gonna have a fence that comes out, whatever, 6 feet, but it's gonna be 6 feet high. and
Well, it doesn't
solid.
have to be, it can be 5 feet high.
It could be 5 at the minimum.
I mean, we'll do it.
Around a pool, so you're talking a 6-foot fence out, and the line of sight all the way down Winchester Avenue, you don't see anybody's fences coming out anywhere.
I
In that
understand.
respect, you understand what I'm saying? And so you would be a first case going out.
Well,
And it could be a 5-foot fence. and
I
it could be
have
an
seen
open fence.
others. I have seen others. There's one on Mansfield.
It could be an open fence, it could be.
We
be an
could
open
do
fence,
a
and it could be
aluminum, a black
5 foot.
aluminum
Whatever
fence.
you guys recommend,
One at a
yeah.
time, so she's recording this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We will do what you recommend. I mean, I think that, I don't want to
If
have.
we take a
issue
vote
now-
on this tonight, it's probably not gonna pass. I would recommend that you let us look at it
Okay.
with less impact on the neighbors. Let the neighbors have a look at it and see what's going to be proposed,
Okay.
and go from there, and
Okay.
postpone this part of the meeting. I think we can vote on the second part, take a separate vote on the pool equipment?
No, I wouldn't break it.
No? Okay.
I would not, no.
But if they lose on the fence, they're still keeping the pool. Why can't they put the pool equipment in the garage?
Well, we have to keep the pool.
I don't think we should buy, I don't wanna buy.
Okay.
Hey, Rich,
Yes.
I have a recommendation with the sight line on there. If they came out 5 feet, it's not gonna affect.
You're saying that. I'm gonna look
just-
at it.
That's just, something to look at.
I agree with
3
Mike.
feet?
I think if they were asking 17 and that's the sidewalk, if you came back
Can I show this
10
to,
feet from that,
Yeah,
can I show this to the neighbor without him being sworn in? Any
yeah,
neighbors?
that would be good. Show it to a neighbor.
Okay, I'm gonna take a break
Absolutely.
here, a 5-minute break, and I'm gonna talk to the neighbors and show them.
Thank you.
That's a good
And you
idea.
too,
Okay.
so we're on break.
We sit down?
You can't just have a pool.
No, they understand. They're agreeable.
You know what, that's the swim board. It's in the wrong place. I don't want to put it.
Well, I mean, relax. Hopefully, there's some really reasonable.
Jeremy, oh, you are so good to me, Joel. Hi, Mike.
But they don't even want it. Just not the whole line. Just that like 8 feet.
No, I have it on pause. You advertised in Cambridge. The first day, the second day, we put it in. Keep her around. We laugh.
She's retiring. She's ready to retire. So you go like if she goes,
Okay, are we back on record? Yes. Okay, because there's an awful lot of discussion.
Let us go see it. And then we, just like you come here and say, no, you can't have 17 feet, but you can 8.
Yes, we did, well, Tom. Yeah, when somebody hopped over a fence, and not only yeah, not much.
I know you did. I know you did. I know. It's a different dynamic. You can't. You left me last month.
How do you remember that?
Oh.
All right, we're back in session. The applicant is going to postpone until March. It will be rescheduled for the March meeting.
And you will notify us, or?
No, we're letting you right now.
You're going to be talking to Roger McLaurin, so you contact Roger McLaurin and come back with variances, and I would also recommend talking to the pool company about putting it in the wrong spot.
And just for
Strongly
the
recommend you talk to the pool company.
Thank you. For
Very
the
good.
purpose
Thank
of the
you.
record, just let me, you're gonna come back on March 30th. It's a Thursday night, 6:30, same place here. So anyone here in the public that's here for this application for Mr. Sabat at 18 North Osborne, that's gonna be carried till March 30th.
Thank you.
So you don't need to re-notify, buddy.
All right,
Try
thank
to do
you.
what I asked.
Any more after that, the ordinance reads? It's a landscape bed or mulch. Right.
It's over
Landscape bed.
till March.
Provided. Right. In a planting bed. I'm not agreeing with that.
Next case is number 9, FCF Associates, 7 South Essex Avenue, Block 105, Lot 7, in the CBD District to grant C variances for parking, building coverage, and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. This is a continuance, so any board member that was not here last month would please sit and remove themselves from the front.
Let me ask a question before we do that.
Were you here last
Are you
month?
going to be presenting a whole new case tonight, or are you really?
I was gonna take it, start to finish, because I'm here. I've got Mike Collins here to give you 5 minutes. I got John Barnhart wasn't here. So I would think that we would do it as a brand-new case.
Okay.
Based on the report, and this way, anybody who.
Okay, so you know, so if there's any issue with that record last time, it's done, there's nothing
Correct.
from the last record, you agree with that?
Correct, we would agree with that.
All right,
This
so
is
the record of the proceeding is just gonna be tonight?
Tonight.
Perfect, okay.
All right, Mr.
Then we can
McLaurin.
sit. It's a new presentation.
Jim, do you leave?
Everyone's gonna stay because they're gonna make a whole new presentation. Is it a D variance?
No, six.
C.
Is it a D variance?
No, C variance.
Okay.
Roger.
Thank you, Board Chairman, Board members. My report is originally dated December 20th, 2016, and revised January 24th, 2017. Background, the applicant is seeking relief from the ordinances of the City of Margate in order to construct an addition to a previously approved site containing a True Value hardware store and associated parking. The increase in floor area prompts a variance for additional parking as well as building coverage. The zoning chart is included, as are the documents reviewed. Included in this application and review is an undated letter from Margate Fire Subcode official to Margate zoning official, me, timestamped January 24th, 2017. The applicant can read that if desired. It was part of the application, part of the my review. The variances required are as follows. Principal building coverage, whereas 60% is the maximum allowed and 63.1% is proposed. A parking variance is also required, whereas one space is required every 200 square feet of building area and no additional parking is being proposed. There's a subnote that a variance was previously granted for parking. No waivers have been requested. My comments are as follows. The site is adjacent to a recently approved use variance to construct residential units. The site is nearly 100% impervious. Consideration should be given to recharge on the roof runoff being generated. The applicant shall provide testimony as to where the AC units will be relocated. All exposed mechanical equipment will need to be screened. All mechanical equipment will need to meet minimum setbacks. Street opening permits may be required. Verification that all license agreements with the city are up to date is required. All required setbacks are being met. The adjacent building due east on Essex Avenue, Block 105, Lot 10, is also within the CBD zone. For variance relief and waiver of relief, the following pertains. For my recommendations, the variances being sought require testimony from the applicant to satisfy C1 and C2 criteria where appropriate, both negative and positive criteria. I'll skip down to item D. The Douglas Avenue frontage shall be landscaped with shade-tolerant species or restored to the requirements of the previously approved site plan or as amended herein. That concludes my report.
Good evening, Brian Callahan of the law firm Callahan Thompson Thompson on behalf of FCF. We're here for the expansion. For record keeping, it's a permitted use with a permitted setback. So what we're here for tonight is about a 3% coverage variance and the additional parking which was previously approved. I'd like to, we've had the opportunity to review the notes from last month, so we'll address those notes that we're dealing with, elevations, that we're dealing with the fire department, light and air and open space. So let me first call Mr. Collins. He can come up and give the testimony to put it on the record as to how long they've been there and what we're actually doing.
State your name for the record, please.
Michael Collins.
Raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Mike, why don't you give them a little background about Comar and what we're doing here and why we're here tonight?
Okay, so we're, as many of you know, a True Value hardware store, been there 17 years. What we're looking to do on the south side of our building, we have an area that presently is used to house our air conditioning units and is used for bulk storage. And we're trying to enclose this area, which will make it much more aesthetically appealing to the property that is going to be built along Douglas Avenue that is now going to be residential townhomes.
Talk about how the space will be physically used by your store.
So the space, once enclosed, the back portion will be used for stock storage. Again, all goods and materials that are sold within the store. The front portion is going to be used as a garage to house our one of our vehicles, and the air conditioning units would be moved to the roof. And as Roger requested, they will be within the setbacks and fenced around.
They're going to be screened also, correct?
Yes.
The vehicle that we're moving inside, vehicle that we use on a daily basis?
Yes. We do many deliveries, whether it's to homeowners or commercially to Atlantic City or various school districts. And our vehicles right now are exposed to the elements, hence the need to get them enclosed so we can preserve them and keep their maintenance and their life.
I don't have any other questions, Mr. Collins. I'll call Mr. Barnhart. Mr. Bergman, do you need me to go through his qualifications?
No.
He needs to be
Mr.
sworn.
Barnhart needs to be sworn in, and there's a microphone, second microphone.
May I have your full name, please?
John Barnhart.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
For the record, we will dispense with the voir dire, and I think the chairman will accept his qualifications.
John, why don't we mark these as exhibits, which what you're going to speak to? This will be A1.
Yep, we'll call this Exhibit A1. This is an aerial photograph of the site. And just right here in the center of the site, everybody's very familiar with Comar Hardware, I think. Right in the center of Essex Avenue, between Ventnor and Atlantic Avenue. This site is fully developed, as you can see, with a one-story building with a second-floor mezzanine within the structure. As a hardware store, has been that way for a number of years, with the front field parking up on Essex Avenue. The proposal before you this evening is to construct, and I will call this Exhibit A2, which is the site plan that was submitted with just a little bit of color added to it. The proposal before you this evening is to construct an addition solely for storage, and as you heard Mr. Collins indicate, an addition for storage along this area that runs from Douglas Avenue toward Essex Avenue, and then also to develop a little garage area for their the truck that currently parks in that position. Currently in this area, if you were able to visit the site, I'm sure you saw it, but currently in this area, and we'll call this Exhibit A3, Brian?
That's correct.
You can see, I will talk about that rendering in a second. You can see the side of the building right now houses a series of wooden platforms that support the HVAC systems, which are elevated obviously for flood purposes, and the area has been used for storage in the past. The area, as you probably well know, and I will go back just quickly to the aerial because it actually still shows it. That area at one time was bordered by a commercial structure that was on the property adjacent to the hardware store that fronted on Douglas Avenue. And that commercial structure went line to line to line to line. So you had a commercial building on that site that kind of masked that side yard of the hardware store. That building has since been torn down. It is currently a vacant lot, getting ready for construction of a new residential project that this board approved under the name Seagrapes Development. I'm sure you guys remember that. So what we're here for is to hopefully gain approval to enclose this area to the side property line, as we indicated, its proposed use of being storage and parking for their vehicle. But what it also does is it really cleans up that side of the property. It develops an area that now can support the HVAC units on top of that structure. Those HVAC units will be then further screened so that when that residential property to our neighboring property is finally constructed, that will be a clean wall, and they will not be looking at the structure that currently exists there because, frankly, it is rather unsightly. Didn't matter when the other commercial structure was there up to its property line because it was masked by that commercial structure. But now that we have that proposed residential structure, and I did plot it on here because we were part of that application, so you can see the outline of where the Seagrapes building, where that residential structure will sit on that lot. It would be facing right into that side wall and looking at those HVAC platforms. So obviously there's a benefit to our client because they gain additional storage and garage, but we truly believe there's a benefit to the neighboring properties as well because it really cleans up that area. The variances that we need this evening are building coverage and then technically parking because we are adding to the building square footage. So I'll just quickly talk about the parking first. As you know, this building was originally built and then there was an expansion to it. Through all of those processes, variances were dealt with regard to parking. We're not changing the intensity of the use in any fashion. It's just storage of materials and actually a parking space by way of that garage area, which is currently a parking space for that vehicle as it sits today. It just happens to be an open air space for that truck. So while technically we need a variance because we're adding some interior square footage, the intensity of the site is not changing. So we believe that really that variance is justified because we're not gaining any more retail space. It's not going to create any additional patronage of the site as a result of us enclosing that area. And the second variance that we are asking for this evening is dealing with building coverage. The building as it sits right now is at 60%. We're proposing to go to 63.1%, and that's really the crux of the application. From a coverage standpoint, when you talk about building coverage, there's the concern is there an issue with regard to stormwater runoff, like Mr. That was a Freudian slip there, huh? He's in the room tonight. It's throwing me off. He's like, coverage. First you think about stormwater, and are you going to create an issue with regard to stormwater? Well, Mr. McLaren wasn't with us at the time, but this site, when it was originally built, actually was developed. There is a recharge system that is out underneath the front parking spaces here. So the stormwater of this site flows across the parking lot and into that recharge system. To our knowledge, and I've been to the site many times, it has been working, continues to work, and will handle handle stormwater management appropriately. This proposed structure is the proposed structure expansion, as you can see from this rendering, is really just creates a mirror image of the building so that it gives you a garage door and a continuation of the existing roof line. It allows the building to actually look very symmetrical, and that because of the sloping pitch, the sloping roof in that area, they're able to gutter that side of the building to make certain the stormwater does not run onto adjacent properties. So from a cover standpoint, from a building cover standpoint, we don't believe that there is a negative impact with regard to stormwater. Other items that building coverage potentially has an impact on: air, light, and open space. So what we are proposing, as you know, is a zero setback for our side property line. We're in a zone, we're in a location where that is actually permitted. You are permitted to go to the side property line. You are permitted to have a zero side yard setback. So what we looked at is, what are the impacts to the neighbors? Because that's really what this is about. Because you have a situation where, if in their last expansion, as you know, they added a portion of a little one-story area. In that application, had they added this area in lieu of this area, because they actually are almost exactly the same square footage, if this one-story portion weren't here and they had come in for that area, it would have been a conforming application with regard to coverage. That setback is a permitted setback, so there would not have been a variance as a result of that, and they would have been along that side property line and in compliance with the ordinance. That's hypothetical, I get that, but my point is, when you look at what our potential impacts are with this area, we plotted the two neighboring buildings to get an understanding of, is there really a substantial impact to those buildings? And what we found is that with the Seagrapes site is approximately 10 feet off their side property line, approximately 8 feet off the rear property line, is a tremendous benefit to the air, light, and open space of the apartment building that is immediately adjacent to us. The units in the back of this building at one time had a building wall right up against their property line at this location, and for that entire wall, so they were walled off in the back. Along our side, the way that their building is constructed, they have approximately a 6.5-foot corridor along their building. So there are columns along their building, and then there's approximately a 6.5-foot corridor before you actually get to the main building wall. So there's still obviously adequate walking space. To our benefit of our project, there is additional air, light, and open space coming in, I'll say, from the easterly side, from Douglas Avenue. And I think what you need to look at is, we are adjacent to a property that is a property that's, in my opinion, kind of outlived its useful life. It's a property that is, from my understanding, has a lot of issues associated with it that the community has to deal with. And it's a property that's a non-conforming use in the zone. So, when I look at it from a planning standpoint, is there a potential impact on the air, light, and open space of that back unit on the first and second floor? Yes, I can't say that there's not. But when I look at this project as a whole, I say, I've got a conforming use in the zone, I've got a conforming setback in the zone, I've got a successful business, we want to continue to promote business in our business district. So is the detriment substantial enough to not allow the variance to be granted? In my opinion, it's not. I think we're getting lucky in this situation where that property to the rear is now demolished, and it does kind of help this scenario, but in the long term, this is a building that's here to stay for many, many years to come. In my opinion, this is a building that is going to be a relatively short-lived building, and that project that site will likely be redeveloped sometime in the future. So this is one of those cases where, is there an impact? Yes. But is the impact substantial enough to not allow this project to go forward? And when you think about that, you have to look at what the benefits of this project are. And I think the benefits of this project are pretty major, in that we are getting rid of the existing development along that side of those air conditioning structures, and really cleaning up that side for the future when that residential project is constructed, and allowing us to house an existing vehicle inside the building, which really goes to the aesthetics as well, because that vehicle is always parked there. So those residents to the rear of that building that will have an impact from this building wall being constructed already have an impact by that van being parked right in front of their front door. So I believe that this is a balancing case. I believe that the benefits of the deviation substantially outweigh any of the potential detriments, which would go to the C2 criteria for a C variance. And for all of those reasons, we believe that the variance can be granted.
I'm going to call Mr. Collins back up because at the last month's meeting, I know that we had two other issues. One was fire department, so I want to have him read into the record what the fire official said. And the second issue was Mr. Wazlewski had raised an issue of that he would like to see an architectural, sign-sealed architectural rendering of an elevation. So we've prepared, we have that done. So as soon as we get done with reading it in, Mr. Barnhart will mark that into the record, and we'll go from there on the elevation so that we will have addressed that particular issue also. Well, why don't you give a quick summary, and then we'll mark it and pass it out to everyone so that everyone has a copy.
Okay, yes, so as Roger McLernan, I think he included it in the documents for today. The Margate fire official came to the site a couple weeks ago to review the issues that were brought up at the last meeting in regards to fire safety. And the outcome of his site visit was that the fire official does not give recommendations as to how to comply with a plan that's not been approved. What he does is, once a plan is approved, he will tell us what we have to do in order to comply with the city codes. And through his visit, it was determined that, you know, once approval, he would make the recommendations, make sure we had the appropriate fire ratings, egress in and out of the structure to satisfy any requirements.
I'm going to mark, even though Mr. McLaurin has part of his things, Mr. Bergman, I'll mark this as A4, and
The elevation would be A5.
and the elevation be A5. Clem, if you could start this circulating, I would appreciate it.
Don't we have that?
I think you have it as part of your package.
Everyone does have
Okay,
it.
everyone
part of
has
the
it?
package.
Great,
It
okay.
doesn't need to be circulated.
I'll make it. Come over. John, you want to just walk them real quick through the elevation over there, the A5?
Yeah, I'll just orient you to the plan that was prepared. This is a plan that was prepared by Ruth Guerrero, a licensed New Jersey architect. You can just quickly see that along the bottom of the plan, you see the front elevation of the building. You can see the hatched area is the proposed expansion area. You see the garage door. As I understand it, and Mr. Collins can speak to this further if necessary, but as I understand it, the intent is to match all the colors and materials of the existing structure entirely. And you can see the HVAC units that will be supported by the steel of that structure that will also have a screening around them that will match the building as well.
I don't have any other questions of Mr. Collins or Mr. Barnhart. I would open up to the board.
John?
Yes.
Microphone. Well, then move the mic over.
I can't see that very well, it's a very light drawing, but the air conditioning units will be on the new structure and not the existing structure?
That's correct.
Okay, good. I was concerned about that.
Yeah, as I understand it, the steel of the new structure is being designed to support those units.
Yeah, the steel of the old structure was okay.
Desmond?
I have the benefit of having heard, but just to clarify for everyone that's present today, and I believe Mr. Barnhart mentioned it, the space is not going to be accessible to any customers. It's primarily, or it's only for employees, correct?
That is correct.
So no new retail space, it's simply for storage, with no access to the patrons?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
How many vehicles will be parked in there? One?
One.
Just one?
Just one.
You have two, right?
We have a box storage that's over in Egg Harbor Township.
One other question. On the roof lines of the two buildings, the neighboring building, are they about the same height as the new building? I don't see the other building next door.
Seagrape?
Yeah. Yes, the apartment building next door.
Edith Apartments, because Seagrape is going to be much higher than
No,
us.
the front one, the front
Right.
one.
Edith?
Approximately the same height.
Same height, the roof lines are the same height, almost touching each other, correct?
I mean, yeah, they'll be pretty close.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, I'd like to open it up to the public now, if anyone's from the public would like to come and comment. Public portion is closed. Any other discussion, comments from the board? Stan?
Roger, this isn't the site plan, right? Yeah, it's site plan, okay. Okay, that's what I thought. This is an application for amended site plan approval. It also requires C variances. For parking, the requirement is greater than 20 spaces. There was a prior variance granted for that in a prior application, but it needs to be granted again due to the fact that they're expanding. The proposed is to keep those 20 spaces. Also for building coverage, 60% is required and 63.1% is requested. So it will be a motion in the affirmative for amended site plan approval and for the 2 C variances that I just stated. And there'll be 9 votes for that, Joanna.
One of the conditions is to redo the landscaping in the back.
Oh, I apologize, Roger. And the conditions, I'm assuming, Mr. Callen, you agree to the
conditions
conditions
are
that were
set
set
forth.
forth in the report?
Absolutely.
I think they,
Anything else, Roger?
I don't think you presented it today, you did last month. You're going to coordinate your landscaping with the Sea Grapes Landscaping?
Yes.
If that project is delayed, or are you going to, can we have a time limit on when you?
Communication with them as to what their proposals are, and we can, if we finish before them or.
Okay.
I didn't hear, we'll have communication with them.
Communications with them, and if they're being delayed, we will finish before they get started, but we'll still have coordination on the landscaping.
Thank you.
And with those amended conditions.
Hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Clem Osleski,
I don't think this addition is going to increase the intensity of use of the hardware store at all. And therefore, I don't think it will affect the need
I
for
can't hear.
any additional parking.
You're done talking now, Clem, you don't need
No,
it close.
no, I have something else to say. The increase in coverage is minimal and will clean up the mess on the side, ocean side of that building. So therefore, I vote to approve.
Mike Richmond,
I agree with Clem, like Ms. has clarified, there's not going to be any retail space in there, so it's really not going to increase the need for more parking, and also I think the coverage is de minimis, so I'm going to vote yes.
Jim Galantino,
Looks better than the air compressors that were on top of stilts that now are gone. Looks great. I don't see any problems with granting a variance to put principal building coverage and parking, and also the landscaping as a condition that I think Roger will have to approve at some point. Is that how it's going to work?
I think I mentioned in my report that the previously approved landscaping from the original site plan ought to be reinstituted or something similar.
Right, we'll get a plan to you showing that new landscaping as part of the submission.
Correct.
I approve.
Margaret Cooper Nolte,
I'm in agreement with the other board members previously. It does not increase the intensity of the business. I'm a proponent of businesses in Margate, obviously. It is in a CBD zone. Visually, it's an improvement, and the detriment is not substantial enough, so I vote in favor.
Mike Cristaldi,
I agree with Mr. Galantino. I think it's a good idea to put the building up for the air conditioners before they hit the ground and clean up the side mess. I think it's a positive. I approve.
Craig Palmisano,
It's a permitted setback, and so they're up against the property line, that's permitted. It's a mirror image of the other side of the building, it'll balance out the front. And I approve the plan. I think it'll be good for the Colmar and the city.
David Carter?
Yeah, it works. I agree with the proposal. I think that it, cleaning up and enclosing that, and then what else is going to happen on Douglas Avenue, I think it ties in with a nice improvement.
Despina Hess?
I'm in favor of the amended site plan as well as the two variances being requested here. As to parking, clearly there's no new commercial retail spaces being added, so there's not any new intensity, no new patrons. So I don't believe any effect as to the increase in parking needs, so there's no objection to that. As to the building coverage, again, also in agreement with that. I do believe that the benefits outweigh any potential negative impacts here. We're actually getting the benefit of improving two blocks here in the city, bonus of the new landscaping. I heard no neighbor opposition, and I believe that aesthetically it's going to be an improvement from all angles of the building. So I vote in favor.
Rich Patterson?
I agree with all the board members for all the positives, but I can't agree on the light and air to the neighbor. They'll be walking in the tunnel. They will walk out and face a wall. There will be no light coming in. For that reason, I vote no.
The application passes 8-1.
Thank you very much.
Next case is Collins Trust, 117 South Mansfield Avenue, Block 13, Lot 8, in the S30 district, to grant C variances for side yard setback, rear yard setback, and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. McLarnin?
Thank you, Board Chairman, Board members. My report is dated January 24th, 2017 for the January 26th hearing. The background, the applicant is seeking relief from the ordinances of the City of Margate in order to construct a single-family home on the northeasterly side of South Mansfield Avenue at the beach. The property contains a timber bulkhead along the ocean front. A few variances are required, one as a function of FEMA mapping and its relationship to design standards. The property is adjacent to riparian and S40 zones. My documents reviewed are included in the application and presented before you. The variances required are as follows. Deck within the side yard, whereas the required side yard setback is 12 feet and the setback to the deck along the bulkhead of 7.17 feet is proposed. Front yard setback to the porch, whereas the prevailing setback is 10.15 feet and 9.66 feet is proposed, for a variance of 0.49 feet. Rear yard setback, whereas the required rear yard setback is 12.5 feet and 8.93 feet is proposed. The one that came up during my review was a building height or a C variance, whereas the required building height from the map indicates a BFE plus 2 for 30 feet and BFE plus 4 for 30 feet is proposed. I'll explain that later, and possibly others. My comments are as follows. The deck within a side yard variance requested is along the bulkheaded portion of the lot facing the ocean. In essence, it's almost a front yard and a corner property. The front yard setback for the porch requested will skew the average setback for determining the prevailing setback for the block. The rear yard back variance is for the principal building and decks. The building height variance is merely a function of the discrepancies between current preliminary firm, or the best available data, and the building design requirements within a coastal A zone, which is American Society of Civil Engineers 24-05. Coastal A zone measures the freeboard to the bottom of the flooring structure, whereas the zoning code refers to the measuring of the freeboard to the top of the finished floor. The limb law, which is the limited wave action location, bisects the lot, which throws the lot into the coastal A zone. Because of the coastal A zone, the floor is 2 feet higher due to the required freeboard Thus, the height of the building is the same, measuring from the LFE, lowest floor elevation, but the floor is 2 feet higher, requiring a variance is 2 feet. Clear as mud, I'm sure.
It's only gonna get worse.
Basically, the extra 2 feet is a requirement, is a function of the FEMA mapping and our zoning not matching up with the FEMA mapping. There shall not be, God bless you. There shall not be any street trees as this property is located within a beach block. The pool is not located at grade and is within the building structure and may not be subject to zoning rules regulating fences. However, the pool, in protecting the public safety, is subject to building code requirements regulating swimming pools and any type of fencing and borders protecting the pool. If a new bulkhead is proposed, it shall be required to meet the city's design standards subject to the city engineer's review and permit. Any site lighting shall not trespass on the neighboring properties, including the city right-of-way. I suggest that a lighting plan be submitted to the city as a condition of approval. The fire pit is subject to city ordinance section 175-28B and C at all, where applicable. Submission of CAFR permit is required prior to issuance of any other permit, including construction permits. Roof runoff and drainage of the property shall be discussed. For variance relief, the following pertains. The recommendations, the variances being sought require testimony from the applicant to satisfy both C1 and C2 criteria where appropriate. And a condition of any approval shall be the applicant receiving all required permits. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. McLarnon. Eric Goldstein on behalf of the applicant. Before we get started, one of the issues that Roger and I were back and forth with quite a bit today, as well as Stan, relates to the height. So just so everyone is aware, the height does not equal higher ceiling heights, floor to ceiling. This is a function that FEMA requires the house to be at 15. Margate's ordinance requires the house to be at 13. So you've got the issue of federal preemption versus Margate's code. However, as Roger and I discussed, Margate's height ordinance hasn't yet caught up to the FEMA ordinance. So what you would have here is we're required to be at 15, but if you measured from 13, it only allows the house to be 28 feet, where the zone allows the house to be 30 feet. So Mr. Bergman and I went back and forth. Rather than make the argument that this should be a federally preempted property and that you should measure from 15, giving us the extra height, we're applying for the height variance only because we need this. Margate's 13 doesn't match up to FEMA's 15. Mr. McLeese will walk us through this. We'll certainly make that clear, but please note we are not adding additional floor-to-ceiling heights as part of that height variance. We're just starting from a higher point, but Margate is measuring from a lower point. Is that correct, Mr. McLarnon? Pretty good way to say it, clear as mud?
I'm in agreement with
tonight,
what
yes.
Roger said.
Sure.
Microphone.
Bill? Well, we can, I'm sorry, Mr. Richmond, go ahead.
What are the ceiling heights?
Why don't I swear Mr. McLeese in? He'll walk us through everything, and then you can see
Okay.
that we're not trying to squeeze an extra couple feet in under this
Right.
argument. Okay. If the house were at 13, it would look exactly the same.
Right.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. All right.
State your full name for the record, please.
William C. McLeese.
There's a microphone for you over there.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. McLeese, you're a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey, correct?
I am.
You've testified before boards on many occasions, correct?
I have.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Bergman, I'd like to have Mr. McLeese accepted as a
Yes, we
professional.
accept
Thank you. Okay. Bill, just walk us through the plan. Maybe start with Mr. Richmond's question as to the ceiling heights, and then go through the variances we're requesting, and then just generally the layout of the house and how you've designed it to meet this lot that was previously a double lot that's now been combined into one.
Sure. If we're starting with the height, let's take a look. Let's take a look at Exhibit A7, which was included in the submission. We're looking at the front elevation facing Mansfield and the beach front elevation facing the beach. The house on the property is bifurcated by the coastal A zone, which is the limit of high wave action.
The requirement in FEMA's guidelines, which are adopted by municipalities across the state, require that in coastal A zones, they be constructed basically no differently than a B zone. To kind of expand upon that, we're required to have piled foundations, breakaway walls. No living space is permitted to be located on that ground floor below the minimum requirement. And the lowest structural member, it's specifically stated in FEMA's design guide, the lowest structural member has to be a minimum of 2 feet above the flood zone. So we have to be, if we're maintaining the 2 feet above AE 11, we have to be an additional 2 feet for our structure, so therefore that gets us to 15. So the lowest structural member being the whaler is at 13.
So what are the ceiling heights?
This first floor ceiling, the first living level is bedrooms, that's 8 feet. The next living level is the main living space, that's 9. The half story up the top is under the eaves. So.
And Mr. McLeese, just by way of clarification, this is your professional testimony, if this house were built at 13, it would look exactly the same, correct?
If it were built at 13, it would look exactly the same. However, they wouldn't be able to get flood insurance.
Correct. Now that we've addressed that issue regarding the height, why don't you walk us through the rest of the design
Sure.
and include the variances for setbacks, both on the side closest to the beach and the rear of the property that faces the house on the Lancaster.
So as you're familiar, the lot's situated at the beach at Mansfield Avenue. It's actually currently has a larger single-family home on it, which we will be demolished and be replaced with what's proposed herein. What we've done is kind of orient the house toward the beach. So as you can see in the rendering here, and one we'll see in a minute, the living spaces are oriented towards the beach with a lot of glass. There's a large deck area which is out in front, including a pool. We have a stair which brings you off of Mansfield, both up to that deck and around to a more formal entrance on this side, which we'll see in a minute, and a 2-car garage is oriented towards the rear or westerly end of the site. Moving forward from there, we've got, well, let's take a look at this. Looking at Exhibit A4, you see the first living level. So this would be the floor that you are, I'm sorry, let me back up. Let's do this. So walking up the steps and entering from the street, you're arriving at the sleeping level. So the formal entry would be here and alternate entry off of the decks oriented towards the beach. So entering in the foyer, obviously we've got the stair, we've got some bedrooms over the parking and the garage. We've got 2 bedrooms oriented towards the front with bath and fitness and game room situated towards the beach. Working up from there, we have the living level, which is the next floor up, which would be this level, where we have living, dining space, kitchen, and entertaining area. Toward the rear on the opposite side of the foyer, which is located here, we have a media room and a smaller bedroom and bath. Taking you up to the last floor, we have the master suite and a study. Again, with the master suite oriented towards the beach, master bath, closet space, and a small study area, as well as the stair coming up and an elevator. To take you back to the...
This meets the 50% requirement for the 3rd floor?
It does, yes.
Mr. McLeese, just by way of clarification as well, Mr. McLarnon read off his report to include 4 variances. We're going to be changing the plan to not ask for, because we know the board is very concerned about this, the front porch setback variance. So even though it was de minimis, we went through the design quite a bit during the day, and we determined the fact that it's de minimis to the board, it's also de minimis to us. We don't want to skew that front setback at all, so we're going to be compliant
So we're going to
to
reduce the width of the stair.
10.15.
Thank you.
So, generally speaking, as you can see, the architecture is somewhat contemporary. The decks are oriented towards the beach. Again, as I mentioned, we have a lot of glass facing the ocean and the beach. We have a larger rendering here, which will kind of give you a sense of the architecture. Again, showing pool and hot tub deck space and porches facing out with glass railings and again, top floor, smaller deck, and sloped roof areas.
When it's done, will you enclose the entire property in a box?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Unless the board has any questions, in addition to Mr. McLeese, Mr. Barnhart on, Mr. McLeese can certainly stick around and answer questions as they come up regarding
Any
the
questions from the
architecture.
board? Are you done? Oh, I'm sorry.
What variances are you now asking?
It's height, just because we have to be 2 feet higher.
Right.
Side yard and rear yard.
Would you show me is there a variance against the bulkhead? Could you show me that on the site plan? There.
Right, the deck is sitting in the side yard technically. We're proposing to extend the deck out. In the initial submission, we had stopped it short, but we actually have the impervious coverage to extend the deck, so we're showing it proposed to go to the bulkhead.
To the bulkhead.
Correct.
And are you, I'm sorry, are you keeping the existing?
Could you use your mics, please?
I believe, Mr. Barnhart will speak to that. I believe that bulkhead is getting replaced.
It is.
It is indeed, I believe
And
it is
is
getting
it
replaced.
going to match the height of the concrete that the city has there?
I would let Mr. Barnhart speak to
Right
that.
now it
I don't
comes
know
down-
if this, I don't know if the city's concrete meets their criteria for today.
It does.
It has to comply with the city design standard.
Right, so we'll probably end up having to be higher than that.
But as a condition, Mr. McLaren's report indicates that the CAFR permit has to be applied for in the bulkhead, and I think that's all acceptable. I know it is to the applicant, so.
That's good if it's high.
Yeah. Right now, there's a step down, and the concrete wall is fairly low. I don't know how the wall is, but it's.
Clem, were you finished? I think you had another question. I'm sorry.
I'm still-
Turn your microphone on, please.
I'm still not clear what the
Variances?
Yeah.
We have a variance, for the side yard because the deck's sitting in the side yard, which is facing the beach, and we have a variance for the rear yard. The requirement's 13.5, I believe, and we're showing our rear yard right now at 9 feet. We have a projection within that 9 feet, but that's the other variance we're seeking.
Where's the current house?
The current house, do you know the number? It's like
It's less than
5.
3 feet.
Oh, the current house is, I think, 2.9.
2.9.
Yeah.
2.19, yeah.
Oh, 2.19? Yeah, it's gonna be a
Yes,
lot.
considerably.
One at a time, please.
We will, at some point, hear from the neighbor. We were lucky enough that the neighbor, well represented by Mr. Talvacchia, is supportive of this application as a better design.
Which neighbor?
That's the neighbor directly next to the rear yard.
Lancaster Avenue?
Lancaster, correct.
Okay.
Now-
Mrs. Tran?
No, that is, the house is owned by Selnick.
Zelma.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, in this case, he asked a question. The Tran family did contact Mr. McLeese for a copy of the plan. He did send that to them. We have not heard from them since.
Where do they live?
They,
Directly next door in Lancaster.
right.
Towards
So they-
Atlantic?
I'm sorry?
On Lancaster?
They live on Lancaster, right?
Lancaster and the beach.
Where's this guy live?
He's the second house in
Oh,
Lancaster
okay.
on the beach.
All right.
So,
So, they had, go ahead.
Mr. Talvacchia's client is here, the Tran house is here.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Tran had contacted us earlier this week, provided the PDFs that were submitted. He asked whether we were applying for a fence. If so, what was the material, how high? There's no fence included in this application, but if there were a fence sought later, we obviously would go through the process for putting a fence up.
He did not say he was against or for it, but we haven't heard back from them either way. So, after Mr. McLeese supplied the plans, that was the end of it, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So,
Thank you.
but we are lucky enough to have Mr. Selnick's representative here, who will speak presumably in a few minutes.
Right.
So-
Right now, you have existing 2.5 feet between houses to the property line in the rear,
It's awfully tight.
and you're going to almost 9 feet,
That's correct.
from 2.5 feet to 9 feet. Okay.
From your submission,
What is it you don't understand, Clem?
well, I'm about to say so. but
Please
let-
speak into the microphone.
Oh, I can't speak to them and the mic.
Yes, you can.
Where was I? I think you indicated in your
4 more
submission.
years.
If there were 2 houses built on here, because it is 2 lots originally, they would actually cover more land than this project. Is that correct?
That's
That is
correct.
correct.
Okay.
More parking,
My
more
only other question,
congestion.
all the land you show around here, the landscape, is that intended to be lawn, grass?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to clarify something for the board and for the audience. This is the last meeting for Jackie Zarillo. We will no longer be having a court reporter. We love Jackie, but the position is being eliminated. Everything will be only on tape, so we have to speak into the microphones so it's picked up by the tape. I really like Mr. Wisleski. I just look like I don't like him.
Eric and Bill, would you explain how high the pool deck is off the existing grade?
The pool deck is situated at 1 foot 8 inches above the FEMA requirement, which I believe is the maximum height that it can be situated. So, here we go. So, as you can see, the pool deck is actually stepped down approximately, I believe it's about 2 feet from our first floor level.
So how high off the ground is it?
Now you're testing me.
It was a 6.5 up to, was it at elevation 12?
So, yeah, it would be approximately 7 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Just by way of clarification as well, and we're going to look, Mr. Barnhart's looking at this now. There is a possibility that the side setback actually is not a variance based upon the most recent adoption of the ordinance. So when Mr. Barnhart testifies, we can get into that, but Mr. McLeese is just going to testify to the design of the house. John thinks that the variance on the side yard might go away. Which would...
Is that the ocean front?
It is, that's
Yes.
right.
Correct.
So, I can put John on now if that,
Yes.
board has, okay. So, Mr. Barnhart's previously been sworn in earlier this evening. Do you want him sworn in again for this application?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
State your name again for the record, please.
John Barnhart?
Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
And by way of clarification, Mr. Barnhart's already been sworn and qualified as an expert. We just asked him to be
Yes.
qualified. Okay. So, John,
Yeah, let me deal with the side yard first, and I'm reading from the ordinance quickly. And we were, as part of the post-Sandy project, grant project, we assisted in some modifications to some of the ordinances, one of them dealing with decks. And one of those changes that took place were, and I'll just read it briefly, is decks and patios on the beachfront side yard are permitted 1 foot 8 inches above base flood elevation, which is what Mr. McLeese has designed, as shown on the FEMA preliminary firm map stated, yeah, such and such. And then it goes on further to say decks and patios and stairs over 18 inches above existing pre-construction grade must meet the rear yard setback for principal buildings. So what we have here is we have a So the way that this building is situated, as you know, Mansfield Avenue is obviously a front yard. The beach area by definition is considered a side yard or the bulkhead side. So the decks and patios are permitted in the side yard. So that would not be a variance based on the ordinance change that took place, I guess it's almost a year ago now. The only variance remaining with regard to setback is the rear yard. The line opposite Mansfield Avenue, by definition, is considered a rear yard. And because Mr. McLeese is proposing to extend that deck along the same building wall out to the bulkhead, that would be a variance for rear yard setback to the deck itself. And then there's a variance with regard to the building. So let me just give you some justification for that rear yard setback variance. You have these labeled at this point? Do you have them all labeled? What would this be? We'll call this Exhibit A2. This is our site plan version of Mr. McLeese's plan. So what we have is we have a rear yard setback, again, opposite Mansfield Avenue, that would be required at 12.5 feet. As Mr.
Hey, John, could I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
The submissions with the package were A1 through A7, I thought, so would this be A8?
other than that, for the package or for tonight?
Well, I think Mr. McLeese said there were 7 I'm assuming we can just say that they were part of the submission, so we'll,
No, that other plan's different.
what's the other, is the other plan A1 then, that was different from the submission? Not John's, Bill's? They're all the same? Okay.
And that goes out to the bulkhead.
His deck has been modified to go out to the bulkhead, you're right,
So it's
on that
different.
plan. Your submission plan did not show that, correct? And our site plan is consistent with Mr. McLeod's modified plan to take the deck out to the bulkhead. At one point, the deck was shown to be cut short, which would just kind of create a wasteland area between the deck and the bulkhead. So what I was saying is, as Mr. Patterson, I think a few others pointed out, the existing condition of this site is pretty unique. You've got a building that, while we're saying it's 2.9 feet off of that rear property line, that is the question of tonight's variance. If you go back there, there's a massive two-story stair structure that actually goes basically to the property line. It's 2 stories high, and furthermore, if you walk back there, what you'll see is the pattern of development of rear yards, not just for the Mansfield properties, but for the properties behind us. The average rear yard setback, I measured probably 4 or 5 of them. The average rear yard setback is only about 3 feet on these 2 blocks. This is how this block has been developed over the years. So what we propose is obviously to make the existing condition dramatically better, opening up that rear yard from next to nothing to 8.9 feet. And there is, I noticed one small projection in this area of 24 inches. So for about 6 feet, it is actually 6.9 feet. I just wanted to point that out.
What is that?
It is it's a shower, correct? So in looking at that rear yard setback, I think it's important to note that while we are asking for the deviation, if you look at the area, and I'm just talking about the building for a moment, if you look at the length of the wall that the deviation exists, it's only 27% of the total length of that rear yard. It's, once you step back, you see how the building steps back and the rear yard opens up dramatically and fully complies. And then the deck itself, as you know, it's a pool deck down at that first level. So the openness that's created by way of getting rid of that existing building and building this proposed building is dramatic for our neighbors. Coming off of that rear line, again, is a dramatic improvement for our neighbors. And we're less than we're 27.5% of that rear line. The length of that rear line is our deviation. So we believe that although it's a variance, again, this is a C2 type of scenario where the benefits of the deviation outweigh the detriments. And the existing structure is so impactful to the neighbors that the construction of this home is going to be, I'm sure, going to be a welcome addition to the community. Keep in mind that existing structure as well has walls, 2-story walls that go all the way to the bulkhead. So if you stand on the street, you could be standing here and you can't see out to the ocean at this site. This building, because they are looking for that nice, beautiful pool deck to really enjoy the ocean, you can see how far off the bulkhead this building is being built. So it's going to open up ocean views for properties in both directions. It's obviously an absolutely extraordinary single-family custom home to be constructed on the site. The aesthetic value of this project alone, I think, substantially outweighs the potential negatives of the rear yard setback that we're asking for both the house and the deck. And I think that Mr. McLeod's did something great over the last couple of days in all of our discussions by coming up with a solution to not ask for that front yard setback variance. So that has been taken off the table as we discussed. And then finally, just from a justification standpoint for the height, this is one of those variances that's a technical variance. We're not asking for any more than our neighbor would be asking for. If we could build the finished floor at 13, we would build the finished floor at 13. It's just that it's not allowed to be constructed in that fashion.
How high is the first floor going to be off the ground level? 9 feet?
And the bulkhead's going to be 9 feet, is that correct?
Oceanfront bulkheads are required at 13.
Bulkhead's going to be 13 feet, and the deck height is going to be how high?
The deck height is 1 foot 8 above.
Almost 13.
Deck will be at the bulkhead height.
2 inches below.
I'm sorry?
483.
The bulkhead is going to be an elevation 13,
Correct.
which is about 6.5 inches. So
Elevation 13, right.
Yeah.
The pool is going to be 20 inches above that.
Pool deck.
Yes.
The deck is going to be higher than the bulkhead.
Correct.
Bulkhead's at 13, so you're gonna be at 15 with the pool.
No, inches.
below, it's like,
Oh, you're going, but the bulkhead elevation will be 13.
Yes,
Correct.
that's
That's required.
that's law.
I thought it was 9.
Beachfront's 13.
13.
Yeah.
And then they're 12.83 on that, which is the 13, and they're gonna be another 20 inches above
yes.
that.
Correct.
That, I got it now. Your 12.83 is what you're showing, and then the bulkhead's at 13, and the pool's gonna be up. That's, you're fine.
Mr. Barnhart, do you believe that the benefits of flood protection that will come with the new bulkhead, in addition to the other justifications you've listed, the benefits of flood protection clearly outweigh any detriment to the surrounding properties?
Absolutely, yes. I don't have any other testimony unless, anybody has any questions.
You done, Eric?
Unless the board has any further questions, we would rest. We do have a member of the
I'm
public.
gonna open up the public,
Sure.
so they can come during that. So are you done?
Yes.
All right, I'd like to open this up for anyone with public comment. Please come forward and be sworn in.
Good evening. Nick Talvaki of Cooper Levinson. How's everyone?
Good.
So we represent the neighbor behind Second House on Lancaster from the Ocean. The Selnick family owned the house for approximately 40 years. And we actually support the design. We looked at it carefully, and we think it's a drastic improvement over what was there. And my client's house is actually behind the garage where the setback is large. So looking at this in the C2 criteria for variance relief, benefits outweighing the detriment, we think this clearly meets that criteria. And we think it's a benefit to us. I don't presume to speak for anybody else, but certainly for my clients, a benefit. And we have no objection at all to the technical height variance. I'd like to just put into the record, this is what they represented to us what the setbacks would be. And we talked to Mr. Goldstein, I don't know how you want to mark that.
P1.
This is what was sent to us by Ponzio's office illustrating the setbacks. to
P1.
us. And so Eric and I talked about a condition, and he can go into more detail, but what we'd asked for and what they have agreed to is that the rear yard and the side yard on the north be maintained as open open space landscaped area, no improvements. And we think that then carries out the reason why we support this. And we would ask that to be a condition of approval because that really satisfies the negative criteria for us, no substantial impact to the neighborhood and to the neighbors. So
Repeat that, right, the open space where.
I have
Landscaped.
a prepared statement from Mr. Talvaki that I will read.
that we agreed to.
From me.
Say again?
I just need it further if you want to make it a condition.
We can share it with you, but he's going to read it anyway, just for the record. That's it. I mean, did I get everything? I was supposed to say certain things. No, I'm kidding. No, it's a really good design. I also have with me Mr. Fusco. It's his in-law's property. Mr. Fusco is also a lawyer, but he's not here tonight. He's here as a family representative. And again, we love the house. Think it's a great design. It's a substantial improvement over what's there. So, thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, anyone else from the public like to comment? Any questions? Public portion is closed. Mr. Goldstein?
So Mr. Talvaki is correct. He and I went back and forth quite a few times, and one of his reasons for supporting this is that it's going to open up the rear of his property to the rear of the applicant's property. So as long as this house is currently in existence and this design is currently up the way it is, Nick had asked me that we would agree to a condition of the variance relief, which we would, and that condition is as follows. As a condition of the applicant's requested variance relief, the rear yard and side yard to the north shall remain open landscape space with no improvements other than landscaping, and that landscaping be consistent with the then existing requirements of the Margate City Land Use Ordinance. That's it for the condition. However, in an effort to also keep Nick's client as well as all of the neighbors happy, to the extent that the board sees fit to grant this, Eric Myers is here. He is going to be constructing this house. He will state on the record, although it really isn't worth much, but he is he is going to do his darndest to keep this site as clean as possible, knowing that there will be days when the wind is blowing and a bag of siding something blows onto the neighbor's yard. But when Nick and I discussed this, obviously, we're very conscious of keeping the area as clean as possible. Eric's going to do his best to keep the area as clean as possible. There are going to be times when some of you, probably Mr. Galantino and Mr. McLarnon, would get a phone call saying, there's a pallet that blew into my yard. It happens, but he's going to take all of his best efforts to make sure that it doesn't happen.
Eric, one question right here.
Yes.
The street pole at the end at the beach, I need somebody to maintain that, put it back up after you do the bulkhead. You're probably going to take it down. Just make sure you put it back up. 'Cause
Okay.
that is our street light. So can we put it on record?
Sure.
Working order.
Yeah.
In working order.
And is the curb cut changing?
Yes, it is. So it'll be, as you can see on the illustration that John brought, it's going to be much further from the bulkhead than it is now. And how wide is that, John?
And the other thing, Eric, make sure that the,
20 feet curb cut.
okay, the street was just recently redone, so we're just going to have to maintain that somehow?
Sure.
Like, protect it?
However we can do, we will.
Eric, in your addendum, or whatever you're gonna call it, you wanna define what you mean by landscaping? It can go anywhere from grass to 20-foot high trees.
Well, I guess whatever we would be allowed, and I don't know what.
Did we
the
say under
applicants-
Margate's ordinance? Is
Yeah,
that what
it'll
you said?
comply with Margate's ordinance, yes.
Yes.
So I don't know what the actual landscaping is going to look like once it is in, but to the extent we will comply with the ordinance, whatever we're allowed or we can work within, we will.
Well, if you put 20-foot high trees in there, are you gonna have a problem with the neighbor that you're making this agreement with?
I don't think it's a plan. I would imagine, yeah, we'll show you the landscape plan.
I mean, with a house of this quality and size, I think we'll do a nice landscaping job. I don't want to micromanage or try to micromanage what they do.
Good luck.
I just would like to see the plan.
All right. As a condition, if the board, we could put on the record now, put in the resolution, we will certainly show the neighbor the landscape plan. I don't know if the neighbor's going to have input into what goes there. We're not going to put any structures back there, but if it's consistent with Margate's ordinance, I don't think you'll have a problem with that, will you?
You're not proposing a fence on it.
No.
You gonna leave that line of those pine trees that exist right in that location?
Eric, what do you think?
Clem, I think it's a good idea. There's arborvitae's along the back and the rear right now.
Eric's not sworn in.
Yeah, maybe, Eric, we never get to do this, so come forward and get sworn in. Take that mic over there.
Well, we can't believe him anyway. You already told us that.
These contractors, they go to, siding bags flying everywhere. He's gonna keep it
Eric J.
everything.
Myers?
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth and the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do, if Eric will believe me. The landscaping that is there was actually a conversation we've had before, Clem, that the existing is pretty well established, and I think it would probably not benefit to take it down. So I think probably something to consider keeping there. If the neighbors are okay with it, I think they'd probably be perfectly fine. They're well established, and quite frankly, you can't see the houses behind or in the rear now.
Sure.
Except for the one that's 2 foot away.
Eric, prior to construction or putting any landscaping in, we can and will supply Mr. Talvacchi and his client with a landscape plan, correct?
Certainly.
Okay.
And I do promise to put the pole in the right place.
He was waiting all night to say that line. I think he wanted to testify just to say that.
Just not upside down, right?
Yeah. Good. Unless anybody has any other questions, that's it for us.
I do, actually. The railing on the pool deck, what is that going to be consisting of?
We were looking at a combination of both cable railing and glass railing. I think they're tending towards the glass railing.
Okay.
Can we make that a contingency? Can we make that a contingency, either cable or glass? Because you're
Yeah.
gonna be a little bit higher
Yep.
than the deck from the ocean. You're gonna be, the deck to the right is gonna be down about 3 feet, just on
Right.
a rough guess.
Right.
So
That's
just
fine.
either cable or glass or something
That's what's been proposed. Yeah, that's
either
fine.
one, just
I'm not sure how much this matters either, but Mr. McLeese.
Could you talk into the microphone, please?
Mr. McLeese contacted me yesterday. We can put this in the record again. It's not a condition, but the applicants are using green materials and as much environmentally conscious construction as is possible. So it's not just a house to them, it's a living, breathing thing. Maybe you can talk about that just
Sure.
briefly.
We're going to look to, I mean, it's one of the mandates that we received when we started the design was that they want to try to include as many sustainable and renewable materials as we can to keep the house as green as possible, so to speak. There is consideration being given to putting solar panels on the roof. I don't know at this point if they're going to be solar panels as you're traditionally used to seeing, or if we're going to do something along the lines of like a photovoltaic shingle, which would be a little more low profile, which is actually the route we'd rather go. But that is definitely going to be a design intent throughout the project.
I understand the green, you didn't answer the rail question.
I don't think we have a problem stipulating that it's either cable rail or glass
They
rail.
said they said they'll make it a condition. Okay.
One other question is, are you asking any waivers from the checklist?
Yeah, I don't think so, Roger. We went over this. Just a second.
I reviewed it, looks like you're pretty much compliant with everything.
Yeah, no, we're not asking for any waivers.
You done?
We are.
Anyone here from the public who would like to comment? Anyone else from the public who would like to comment? Public portion is closed. Any other comments from the board? Did you read the motion with these conditions?
The application is requesting C variance relief for front yard setback requirement 10.15 feet, proposed 9.66 feet. Rear yard 12.5 feet required, 8.93 proposed, 6.93 to the shower. Side yard deck 12 feet required, 7.17 feet proposed. Building height, we've heard about that. It's essentially a 2-foot height variance, which is a C variance. Conditions are all the conditions set forth in Mr. McLaren's report dated January 25th, 2017, unless modified herein. Rear and side yard to the north shall be open landscape. Plan shall be consistent with, the landscape shall be consistent with the ordinance, and the neighbor shall be permitted to review the landscape plan. The applicant shall restore the street light on the bulkhead, and the deck railing shall be cable or glass.
Just one modification then, Mr. Bergman. We had withdrawn the front porch variance, so it's height, and then depending on how you look at the side.
Okay, so that, all what I said minus the front yard variance.
And the rear yard setback is for the building and the deck, and a lighting plan should be submitted.
Sure.
Okay, lighting plan needs to be submitted also, as a condition.
Yeah. So, just as one item Mr. Barnhart pointed out, the 8.9 at one point goes to 6.9 as a projection, so.
Yeah, I said for the
Okay.
shower, 6.93, right, okay.
Your motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Tom Collins?
You know, it's a shame when you look at this property that's existing, because in its day, it was a very historic and very new architectural concept that hit Margate, and you really hate to see them go away, but well, it's true. The design and what's going to replace it, the generous setbacks, you know, the side yard for the pool and the deck, to me, really doesn't count. You're against the ocean. I see no negative impacts on the neighborhood. I think it meets all the C1 criteria for improving the neighborhood. I think it's going to be an added addition. I think Margate's going to really benefit from this and keep our trend of what we're doing and being out in front of everybody else going and going. So I vote in favor.
Clem Osleski?
Well, at the risk of offending my old friend, Mr. Sheikman, and my classmate who designed it, I have to say this is a considerable improvement. That the existing house has not stood the test of time very well. It's just so refreshing to see something of interest going up in Margate, instead of these eclectic collages we usually look at, littered with a lot of historic litter. It's great. I like it, I approve.
Mike Richmond?
I guess the main variance is the height, but, you know, you are close to the ocean. I mean, theoretically, it could have been designed to be a two-story house, but I think the counter to that is there is a lot of open space, a lot of landscaped area, so I think that balances that out, and I'm going to vote yes for it.
Jim Galantino?
Clem, did you say you designed a house? Frank Lloyd Wright?
He was a year ahead of me.
To the deck variance, front yard, rear yard, building height, I don't see any problem. I'm sure Mr. Sheikman will be glad not to hear from me again. I used to pester him every year about painting his structure, so I'm going to be sorry to see this building go away. I vote yes.
Margaret Gubernalty?
Certainly, it's a great project. It's a beautiful improvement. In terms of the variances required, I don't see a problem with the deck within the side yard. It's beachfront, it's open. The building height, I understand, is a technical variance, and it does give us flood protection. Rear yard setback is an improvement to what exists. Our neighbors are satisfied. Benefits outweigh the detriments. I approve the application.
Mike Cristaldi?
They could be putting two houses on this thing like the rest of them, but they're putting one on a lot, which to me is a biggie. Getting rid of that kindling pile there, I think Butch McGrath will really be happy about that. I think it's a positive for the city. I definitely vote yes.
Rich Patterson?
I vote yes for the exact same reason as Mrs. Gubernaldi.
The application passes 7-0.
I like saying
Thank you.
Eric?
that. 1 second. Yeah. 5-minute break, please.
Where's the clock around? No clock Yeah, we got 5 minutes. Yeah, it's
Steve Collis is the CEO of my ex-company. I was one of the founders. I was one of the 8 founders of the company that he's built. Steve Collis. Marisburg, also we bought a lot of small companies to put it together.
They're raising that.
Steve came over with Bergen, acquired Bergen.
Oh, you worked on that? They know. But they worked on that one. And then they just put it down. So I'm way up here now.
Okay, we're on. We're recording. That I can't touch.
We're back in order. Next case is Kurt and Karen Heffler, 16 South Vendome Avenue, Block 123, Lot 8, in the S40 district to grant C variance for bulk, second floor addition, front yard setback, front yard deck setback, right side setback, and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. McLaurin?
Thank you, Board Chairman, Board members. My report is dated January 26, 2017. Background. The applicant is seeking relief from the ordinances of the City of Margate in order to construct a second floor addition that will require certain variances from the Planning Board. All variances being requested are due to vertical expansion of nonconformities. The variance is being requested for lot width, but in my opinion, this situation is an existing nonconformity, and the zoning ordinance permits construction without variances for undersized lots if lot width, if the lot is already developed. So in my opinion, that goes away. Variance is required. Front yard setbacks for the deck, whereas 9.56 feet is calculated and 6.7 feet is proposed. Front yard setbacks for the building, whereas 18.82 feet is calculated and 14.4 feet is proposed. Side yard for the deck, whereas 5 feet is required minimum and 2.75 feet is proposed. Side yard setback for the building, whereas 5 feet is required minimum and 2.75 feet is proposed. The building height for the cupola, whereas cupolas are not permitted to extend beyond the allowable building height for 1 and 2 family dwellings, whereas one is proposed. That needs some clarification. The building height actually in the zone is not 28 feet, it's 30 feet. So in essence, a cupola could be permitted on the building as long as it does, without a variance, if it doesn't rise above 30 feet.
And what does it rise to?
It's unknown. The one that's shown is just a schematic, and that's for the architect to contemplate. I suggested request a variance anyway, as long as it doesn't exceed a certain amount. To me, it's an architectural feature. It actually enhances the building, in my opinion. My comments are the existing structures remain and to be extended out towards the public right-of-way. There are not any street trees present, although the planting strip is grassed. Cupolas are permitted for non-1 or 2 family dwellings and could be considered an architectural feature as it is uninhabitable. The cupola height may even be considered de minimis if it wasn't specifically mentioned in the ordinance. Recommendations, as you can see, they have to satisfy the C1 and C2 criteria where appropriate. And also recommend that 2 street trees be added to the planting strip. And the cupola is a nice architectural feature, may be higher due to the steeper roof pitch design. The original roof ridge was 2.2 feet below the allowable roof ridge, and actually it's 4.2 feet. But they're putting a steeper roof on there, which is driving everything up. They're still below the allowable roof height. The condition of any approval shall be on the applicant receiving all required permits. That concludes my report.
Eric Goldstein on behalf of the applicants. Applicants are seated in the front row and are available to testify. That may be necessary only to the extent that there's a question about the the bedroom count and the number of parking spaces that are needed. Mr. McLaren and I went back and forth a couple times regarding the number of actual bedrooms. The bedrooms are being increased, but not so much that we would need a parking variance. And if the board has questions for the property owners, they actually brought pictures with them of the bedrooms showing that they are in fact bedrooms, and there's one that's actually an office and a den, so there's not additional bedrooms being created that would cause a parking variance. In addition, with regard to the variances we're requesting tonight, with Ms. Cummings will walk us through, the footprint of the house is not being increased. We're bound by what's there now, and we're building onto what's there now, but there won't be any additional encroachment onto the neighbors. And as Mr. McLaren pointed out, the width of the lot is the width of the lot, and there's nothing we can do to make it any larger. So having stated that, I do have an expert in the field of architecture to testify tonight, Terry Cummings. He can come up and be sworn, and I'll get her mic.
Just state your name for the record, please.
Terry Cummings.
Please raise your right hand. You swear the testimony about to give this matter be the truth, the truth,
I do.
Terry, you're a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey, correct?
I am.
And you have testified a number of times before boards, including this board.
Many times.
Mr. Berg, Mr. Patterson,
Yes,
we accept her as
our
an expert. Thank you.
qualifications.
Okay, why don't you walk us through what the proposal for the renovations to the Hefner residence entails, and then the variances themselves, specifically noting that they're all existing nonconformities and the fact that we're not going to be increasing the footprint. That's very important.
Well, we're doing this renovation and addition project for 2 reasons. One, the extended family of Kurt and Karen is growing, and the space that exists at the house today, which I'll walk you through, is very limited and not used very well. In addition to that, the house itself could use a little bit of curb appeal, so we hope to do both with this project. I want to show you here the site plan, because it's very important that you understand that we are not increasing the footprint at all, as Eric said. There's an existing footprint, which is the house and the front deck and a pool. And the lot is the size that it is, and it has adequate parking and a garage. So in no way are we going to expand the footprint or the lot coverage of the house whatsoever. You can see here we have a little sketch of the house, and I have a photograph to show you the house as it is today. And what's important to see about this is that the house, the second floor of the house, is set way back. The first floor is relatively in line with its neighbors, but the second floor is set way back, and what they have is a lot of deck space that's not usable for anything. So what we want to do is change that and create something that looks like this, which gives us much more interior space and 2 floors of covered deck. I'd like to show you now the first floor. We are not going to make any changes to the existing first floor, which is very nicely laid out. You come in off a deck and you have a living room, dining room, kitchen. You have 2 small existing bedrooms with a very small bath. And the back room here is the den that has double doors, no closet, and that leads directly out to the backyard, which is the pool. And this is the only way to the backyard and through the fenced area. So this is absolutely being used as a den. And we have no issue with the first floor. But you can see on the second floor, the way it is today, is you come up the stairs and you have a lot of very unusable deck in the front. Set way back, there's no view, there's no street connection, it's just not used. They have an amazingly oversized master bedroom that is bigger than anybody could ever need. An office area for Kurt, who works a lot. I know, because every time I'm over there, he's working. So he works day and night, weekends, he needs an office. And some other spaces that are not used very well. So our concept is to expand these spaces and make them much more usable for interior space. Our new plan makes absolutely no changes to the first floor, staying exactly as it is. But when you come upstairs, we've enclosed some of the first floor to provide 2 new bedrooms with 2 bathrooms, stealing space away from the master bedroom, but still keeping it a nice sized bedroom and a dedicated office for Kurt so that he can get his work done. In addition to that, we've changed that front elevation and we've created something that is much more in keeping with the rest of the neighborhood. We have a covered first floor, which is now open. So we've covered this to give shade. We now have a new second floor that accesses both the 2 new bedrooms, and then covered that with a more interesting kind of roof line. I want to point out that this is a 2-story house. We are not asking to do a taller house or a 2.5-story house. It is only 2 stories, but it's making much better use of the space that we have to work with. And by making the attic more pointed, we're able to get a different look and play with the roof lines, but it is going to stay an attic. It will never be finished. There's no stairs to go up there. It's just unfinished attic space. To do this, we are requesting several variances. Now, first variance is due to the lot width, which is, we already mentioned, is existing at 47 feet, and we can't change that. The first floor, which is already existing and non-conforming, sits 14.4 feet in. That's 4.42 feet beyond the allowable setback. So we're just asking that our second floor be built over the top. We need to use existing structure to hold up the floor and to hold up the new deck. So we're not asking for more, we're simply asking to be allowed to build on top of what already exists. The same thing with the front deck. The first one is already existing, and we're just asking that we can bring the second floor deck and sit right on top so that we can build our new columns right on top of the existing foundation. And the building height that we asked for is actually below the requirement. However, at the time that this was designed, I did not realize that a cupola would fall under that kind of height restriction. And the one that I am showing on the design, let's see a straight design here. Yeah, and it is only a conceptual design. It's a standard one. The actual cupola could be smaller.
What's the square footage of it?
Of the cupola?
Yes,
Less than 9 square feet.
3 by 3.
Yeah.
Or less.
Then that would be the base, or less.
Right.
Very small, and the height would vary. We're really literally of measuring to the top point, and that varies depending on the actual cupola that they purchase. So that's a very small, tiny little thing. And I think that I have covered, we're not increasing the lot coverage, as I said, no changes to that. And I think I have covered everything, Eric. Did I forget to mention anything?
Just want to clarify with regard to the cupola, we don't have an actual cupola that we are using for a specific height. 3.6 seems to be about the estimated height. So if we were basing that off of the existing house of 25.8, the roof line, 3.6 would still be below 30, which would not require a variance. If we went higher to the cupola, then it would require a variance. So we would ask for it, we may not need it. And we would ask for it, I guess, to be at what?
Just so that when they pick an architectural piece, that it's in balance with the rest of the house. But that decision hasn't been made yet, and so it's an
But
unknown.
I think it's important to note that to the extent we are doing a height variance, it wouldn't be for anything other than the cupola. So there wouldn't be higher ceilings. It would just be something on the exterior of the house to give it a little bit of a different look along Vendome.
What would be your best estimate of how high of a height variance you're gonna need, because we need to make it part of the resolution, as you know?
I would say it would be no more than 2 feet, because if you take the base plus the decorative element, and I'm sure it'll be under 2 feet, but I would say we would want to go 2 feet for the height just for the
So
cupola.
less than 32 feet.
Correct. And I would suspect when Mr. Galantino goes out and looks, it will be lower than that, because if it's any higher, it'll look kind of goofy.
Yeah, I don't expect it to be that high,
Yeah.
but that way we are covered, whatever they pick.
Right. Unless the board has any questions, the Hefflers are here if there's a question about the bedroom count, but otherwise, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Eric, the existing structure is non-flood compliant?
The,
So elevation 10 and 12 is required? Is
that's
that-
correct, yeah,
Yes.
we're not at, I'm sorry, was that Mr. Collins? Oh, I thought you were, you're correct, Mr.
But you're
McCollum.
not increasing the first floor area at all?
Correct.
So if you had to, you'd have to raise it 2 feet from where it is?
1.
1 foot?
One. Yeah, that's right.
So the existing first floor elevation is 1188, is that correct?
12.
Terry?
11, it's 11.
1188,
Yes, 11, 1988, yes.
right. And you're
And-
required to be at 12 for,
12.
right, okay.
But keep in mind that we are only adding 510 square feet to this house. It is a very small addition, which we are accomplishing a lot in a very small addition that is economically been feasible for a house that is not going to be raised above the floodplain.
You done?
Unless the board has any questions for the
Any
property
questions?
owners or for Terry? You're done.
The applicant is aware of the 50% rule?
That's correct. We discussed that, and Mr. Sterling's here, who will be presumably building this, and he will bring it in under the 50% of the assessed value of the improvement. He is also here to say, if necessary, that he will keep the job site clean and neat from debris, keeping in mind that Vendome's a well-traveled street in the Parkway, and he knows that he has to keep all the neighbors happy.
Eric,
You must be getting these phone calls then, huh?
can we agree to one thing? Maybe give us an elevation on the 32-foot from a surveyor, so
Oh,
we can
absolutely.
document.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Mr. McLaren, you are correct that neighbors don't like construction next door. What do you think about that?
Anyone here from the public that would like to comment on this? Public portion is closed. Stanley?
The application is to essentially build an addition on the second floor, expand it. It's going to require C variances. It is somewhat of a vertical expansion for the bulk requirements at least. So there's a front yard setback, 9.56 feet required, proposed 6.7 feet. Front yard for the building is 18.82 feet. proposed 14.4, side yard setback 5 feet required, 2.75 feet proposed, and the building height is, requirement is 30 feet above BFE, and the applicant is requesting a variance which will be less than, above 30 feet, but less than 32 feet, is what I'm hearing, right? With a survey of that for the height conditions as set forth in Mr. McLaren's report. And that's what I have. Roger, any more conditions that you know of? Any more conditions?
No, we accept the conditions. We went through Mr. McLaren's report, and we're okay.
You're not requesting any waivers?
No.
Did you say something about street trees, not this one?
Yes, I need 2 street trees.
That's fine.
Okay, so 2 street trees is one of the conditions. What's that, in the front yard? I mean,
Front yard,
strip?
yes, in the strip. Unless the utilities interfere, I think there's room.
Okay, so we motion the affirmative for those variances with those conditions.
I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Tom Collins?
Very interesting when you actually see the pictures and then the proposed drawings of what Terry's proposed. I think that this meets all of the positive criteria for C1, C2 for the neighborhood. You're actually bringing a house more in tune to what's going on in Margate. I like your design, it's very interesting, it's not a cookie cutter, but you always do nice jobs, and the cupola, I think, is a great effect. You have a great builder, and I know he's gonna keep the place clean for you, and he does a nice job, and I think that this is really gonna be an improvement to the neighborhood. So I vote in favor.
Clem Oslowski?
Well, since none of the neighbors objected to it, particularly the house immediately next door on the bay side, which is the one that's most affected, and it fits in with the rest of the block. So I'll vote yes.
Mike Richmond?
Yeah, since I agree with Terry that structurally it kind of makes sense to follow the first floor. Really, you're not making the envelope of the house any wider or longer, you're just going higher. And it is a pretty small addition. I think the cupola thing is de minimis, and I'm gonna vote yes.
Jim Galantino?
As to the variances for the front yard setback, side yard, and the building height, we're going to get an elevation cert on the roof height, determine that it is compliance with their approval, and this, if it is approved, I don't see any problem with granting this variance, and I vote yes.
Margaret Gubernalty?
I agree with Mr. Galantino, and in that the footprint remains the same. It's basically an addition to the house. We can't change the lot width, and certainly the curb appeal is an improvement. It really fits the neighborhood nicely, and I vote in favor of the application.
Mike Cristaldi?
I see no downside from it. It's just a great improvement. It's an existing thing. There's enough room on the side. I approve.
Rich Patterson?
For the same reasons Mr. Galantino stated, I approve the application.
Application passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Next case is Annette Cohen, 29 South Madison Avenue, Block 129, Lot 48.01 in the MF District, for C variance, front yard setback for the porch, landscaping, and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. McLaren?
Thank you, Board Chairman, Board members. My report is dated January 24th, 2017. Some background. The applicant is seeking relief from the ordinances of the City of Margate in order to extend an existing first floor porch or deck 2.46 feet further out towards the public right-of-way. The existing door, deck, and porch scales to 6.5 feet deep and about 11 feet wide, or 71.5 square feet in area. The proposed deck expansion of 15.9 square feet will provide about 87.4 square feet of the first floor deck. There is an existing second floor deck that is not being expanded as part of this proposal. The house itself extends further than the deck and encroaches into the prevailing front yard. A similar application was denied in cut off
Some time ago.
I think it was 2014.
It was actually 2013.
2013?
Yes.
Thank you. The variances required are as follows. Front yard setbacks to the porch, whereas 11.7 feet is calculated average and 5.88 feet is proposed. Front yard landscape area, whereas 60% is required minimum, 42.9% exists, and 39.6% is proposed, not taking into consideration the steps going up to the front of the porch. Overall landscape area, whereas 35% is required minimum, 24% exists, and 23.4% is proposed. So 0.6% reduction could be considered minimal. My comments are as follows. There is an existing first floor porch and second floor deck already in place. The minimum setback for porches is 5 feet, and the calculated average is 11.7 feet, not including subject property, and 5.88 feet is being proposed. The request for this variance may appear as de minimis, as it is only 2.5 feet. However, if this variance is granted, it will negatively skew the average of front porch setbacks for future development, meaning porches will be moving closer towards a public sidewalk. Item number 7, I think that's been resolved. And really, there's no further comment.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. My name is Joel Fleischman. I'm here tonight representing Anat Cohen, the owner of the property. It's in question. Anat's here with us. My expert tonight will be Tom Days from Arthur Ponzio's office. And I know it's late, so I just want to say a couple brief things about this project. We are here tonight requesting your approval to expand this porch that exists by approximately 2.5 feet towards the street and 6 feet wide. It's about a 15.9 square foot addition. Essentially, what we have is really a beautiful house at 29 South Madison that when it was constructed and approved, it had a setback already of a bay window of 5.4 feet, 5.44. The porch was constructed at 8.34. And essentially, it's an unusable porch. You can put a chair on it. You'll hear from Mrs. Cohen tonight how she uses it and how she needs to use it in the future months coming. And I hope you will take that into consideration when you consider this application. I know that front porch setbacks and moving things that have been said that we'll deal with some of the professional comments, moving the porch forward, skewing the setback on the street. Actually, as you'll hear, the impact on this setback, the average setback on Madison Avenue will be 2.5 inches. So when you talk about de minimis, it's hard to even imagine something more de minimis than what we're asking for, and the increase in the quality of living, enhancement, bringing someone closer to the street where it doesn't really have any negative impact on either the zone plan, the zoning ordinance, even the master plan, which says, listen, if you don't have a prevailing, you got to have at least 5. This house was actually constructed at 5.44, so it's already consistent with the master plan. Our movement of this porch doesn't even go out any further than the existing house. So, and you'll see in the pictures that Mr. Days will walk through that there really is no negative impact. It's so rare that you get an application that says there really is no negative. It satisfies. I've done a lot of planning. I'm the planning board solicitor in Atlantic City. I know, C1 variances. If there was a perfect C1 this is a perfect C1. Okay, you have a property that is very uniquely situated, and the law is really clear. It's an exceptional situation, uniquely situated. This property is 62 and a half feet in depth. Five of the eight properties that are taken into account when you calculate the average setback are 125 feet deep. So you have 3 properties at 62 and a half feet. So there's really already, if it's 11.8 is what the existing setback average is, this house is violating that, if you will. In other words, because it's so closely set to the front. We can't do anything without getting a variance. And again, I'm sensitive to the fact that my client was here. I wasn't representing them in 2013. They were denied. They were seeking about a 5-foot extension. It was denied. I think they heard the message. I think what we're asking for tonight is reasonable, and I don't think it will have any negative impact going forward. And again, being sensitive to the board, not wanting to see this set a precedent, I think this unique situation will not set a precedent, and that's what the C1 variance is all about. It's about applying discretion to the facts of a uniquely situated piece of property. So with that, I'd like to have Mr. Days sworn. I don't know, Stan, if you want to have, Mrs. Cohen will probably speak a few words tonight, so
If she comes up, we'll
swear at that time?
we'll swear.
Absolutely. State your name for the record.
Thomas Days.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I know Mr. Days has appeared before the board. Accept him as an expert. Thank you very much. Tom, I know you prepared the variance plan, your office prepared the variance plan for tonight's hearing. Why don't you explain for the board, what we're looking to request this evening?
All right, this is exactly what was submitted, with a little bit of color on there. And this little area here is what we're talking about. We're asking for a 5.88 foot setback, where a 5.44 is for the principal structure. One of the things, it was mentioned that we were here, or the applicant was here a few years ago asking for a similar variance. I would say there's one major difference between what they were asking for then and what we're asking for tonight. What they were asking for then violated that 5-foot minimum that your ordinance requires as a minimum. Tonight, we're respecting that. We understand that 5 feet in Margate is the minimum allowed. We're not going to 5 feet, we're going to 5.88, and we think that's an important distinction from the earlier application. One of the things that Mr. Fleischman addressed also, or discussed quickly, and I'd like to reinforce, the way that setbacks are calculated, as you all know, is an average. And on Madison Avenue here, you have the first 3 lots are 62.5 feet deep, and then included in this average are 5 additional lots that are all 125 feet deep. And as you look at this, they're developed according to the depth of the lot. The shallower lots are closer to Madison Avenue. They're 6 feet, 5.4 feet, then the porch here is 9.2 feet, and then we jump up to the 12 feet, 15 feet, 13 and a half feet, 13.4 feet. And that puts the setback average a lot higher, but again, they're deeper lots. So we think it's appropriate on those lots. We can't meet that and have, a suitable structure on our lot.
I don't see where you're saying they're deeper.
They look all the same depth. to me.
Yeah.
The way it's drawn here is incorrect.
Okay.
If you were to look, I don't know if I have the tax map, I don't have the tax map here. Starting, again, it's lots 48.02, 48.01, and 46 are all 62 and a half feet deep. In fact, on the plan you have, there is a tax map on there.
Yeah, I believe the tax map does show the lots being 125 feet.
Again, I apologize
All right,
for
I see it.
the 200-foot radius setback survey not be drawn correctly, but that is a significant mistake on our part, but they are actually 125 feet deep. So let's look at, what we need to show the impacts on, the zone plan and on the community. One is light, air, and open space. We're not proposing to go into the side yard setback, so the view corridor on the lot is maintained. And I'm going to switch, we'll call this A1, we'll switch over to A2. And what this is a couple of different views that we took up and down Madison Avenue and across the street. And here we are, we're looking toward the beach. And this yellow house here, this is our house. And you can see that the bay is the only thing that you see, that bay window. And if we build the expansion that we're requesting, the only thing you'll see is that bay window. We're not coming out even to that bay window. We'll be inside of that, so we're not projecting closer to the street. And here's another view. This porch here, when you're down the block, this porch here is almost out as far. Again, the setback's not the same, but when you look at the different angles and the way you view it, you still don't see very much of the bay window. And then the view, this is from our porch. And you can see this gray house, that's at the corner of Madison and Pacific. And then if you're here, this is across the street of Pacific, looking down Madison. And again, you can barely see the bay window sticking out. There's a large shrub right there that actually covers most of that bay window at grade anyway. So even though we're still tucked in, we'll be a little bit further out than this wall. But with that shrub there, you wouldn't even be able to see this porch expansion from that angle. Another thing that was mentioned in Mr. McLaren's report was the safety of backing out of the driveway. And when we saw that comment, we started to look at, AASHTO site triangles and how do we quantitatively show that there is no negative impact on public safety. And we did that, and we didn't show it. But it is clear. I mean, when you back out to where the car would actually be stopping before it pulls out into traffic, they would be clear of the site triangle from 300 feet down Madison Avenue, and we would actually be clear of that expanded porch. But what we think is important to point out, there are properties that didn't require any variances where the principal structure is 5 feet from the property line. So if 5 feet is safe for those properties, 5.88 feet, we say has to be safe on this property also. And I think Mrs. Cohen has some testimony about how her experiences on this lot that would reinforce, the conditions there and her experiences backing out of that driveway. So again, I think when you take all that into consideration, there is, from the views we looked at, there's zero impact on the neighbors either side. They won't see the porch expansion. You can't see it from down the street. We're not encroaching into the side yard, so there's no encroachment or impact on light, air, and open space. So there's really no detriment at all to the neighborhood because we're respecting that 5-foot minimum, which again is an important distinction from the previous application. We don't believe there's any negative impact on the zoning plan or the master plan.
Now, Tom, there are also 2 landscape variances.
There are landscape variances, and they are
Those, please.
They are purely a function of what we're doing. We're not proposing any additional coverages. It's just this porch expansion. Again, we think that's a de minimis change in the coverage. The front landscape, I know on other applications, there's only so much we need to fit in that front yard. We need to have a driveway, we need to have steps in the walkway. So really the only thing we're doing beyond what we need is this little bit of a porch expansion.
Is that a grass strip you're showing in the driveway? Or that's if you had to?
There is a grass strip there, and if the board wanted us, what we're showing there is we do have some opportunities that we could reduce those coverages.
Well, this doesn't show a grass strip.
No, that is one difference, that we did show a couple proposals that we could do to accommodate concerns.
Is the grass strip there now, or are you just saying?
There is no grass strip.
Okay,
No.
so okay, I see what you're saying.
That's an alternate design that,
Got
should
it.
the board want us to,
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the property, if you've looked at it, is very beautifully landscaped. It's meticulously kept. If the board so desired, we certainly would be, to bring the variances, we could eliminate actually the total landscape variance by removing some of the brick pavers in the rear and planting back there. And we could add the grass strip, and that would bring the front yard landscaping back up to, there would be no variance required
Yeah,
for that.
that
But
wasn't
would
my
be
point. My point was, I thought that was saying it was existing. That's just if
No.
we didn't take it. Okay.
But if the board wanted, in other words, we would certainly be willing, the Cohens are willing to do really anything
I
to
don't
be
think-
able to
all
get
right.
what they need on the
Thank
front
you.
porch. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, and again, just to reinforce what Mr. Fleischman had said earlier, we did recalculate the front yard setback. If you grant this approval tonight, yes, it does reduce the front yard porch setback, only the porch setback, not the principal structure, and it reduces it by 2.4 inches on our lot. I also calculated it for lot 48.02, because again, there's a different mix of properties. They would lose one of the ones on this end. Theirs would go to 3 inches less than it is now. You know, I think what we're asking for is de minimis, and I think the impact on the prevailing front porch setbacks is even more de minimis or less de minimis. So I think for those reasons, again, there's very little negative impact, if any, on the zone plan.
So in your professional opinion, then, do you see this as qualifying for the C1 criteria?
Yes, that's correct.
You do. And do you see any detriment? I mean, not even a substantial, do you see a substantial detriment?
Certainly not a substantial.
Do you see any detriment to the zone plan and the zone ordinance of
I really don't
of
know.
the city? With that, I have no further testimony at the moment for Mr. Days, but I'd like to have Mrs. Cohen
Member
sworn,
sworn
Mr. Chairman.
Let me ask Tom a question first.
Sure.
As it's proposed now, you're talking about coming out approximately 2.5 feet?
2.46 feet
And
is,
that's just on the first floor?
that's only the depth, it's basically the porch surface and the railing. It's not
So
second
nothing
floor,
above
not the overhang, the roof does not extend over that, nothing.
And is it proposed that you're moving the foundation out, or are you going to cantilever the porch?
I haven't looked at the design of it. I'm not sure. I mean, as it exists now, there is some structure and lattice there. I would say that it's likely that they would would want to move that out. I don't know if,
Well, I'm just saying that
Don't
if
put
you
that-
actually cantilevered over, then you really wouldn't be taking any ground landscaping off. You could have smaller little bushes underneath. It would just be,
yeah, I'm not sure if under your ordinance that would give us back that coverage or not, though.
No.
I think we would still need that coverage.
And then the landscaping
Variance.
could, just from a logistical standpoint, might be under the deck, it may not survive, you know, and I don't know about the construction, we haven't actually gone that far since we weren't sure about the approval.
It doesn't count towards the coverage.
If we're cantilevered over?
Right.
Okay, I mean, I'm sure it could be designed to be cantilevered. I don't know, again, I don't believe there's any design plans
Do you-
done, but
I think the change in the landscaping is actually de minimis too.
Wouldn't
Yeah,
you want to keep it in with what's there now?
I mean, we would prefer, I think, to keep it, to maintain the look that's there now, yes. That is kind of what we prefer. So again, it's up to the board's consideration, if the coverage is an issue, if that, 0.3% change in the overall coverage is an issue or any of that. There's some things we can work with you on and that we can do.
And I think getting rid of the brick pavers to add landscaping is not in the board's best interest. I think that the driveway itself, as it looks now, is nice.
Thank you.
I have a question
Yes, sir.
for you. It was last proposed last year to have an awning on it, an extending awning that went out 3 or 4 feet more. There's not one proposed for...
No awning is being proposed.
No, not at all?
No.
Okay. Retractable is a problem to me. Well, it blocks people's view from down the street. It would go out further.
It is allowable by ordinance.
It went to the property line before, it went to the sidewalk.
It's not in the plans.
Not in the plans, okay.
I just have a comment. If the board were to grant approval for this porch expansion, have you considered pulling the steps out too and making the whole width of the porch wider? I mean, if you're gonna ask for this variance and you get it, the steps don't count towards the setback.
Right.
So why not, if you're granted approval, I would recommend that you
I would throw that over to Mr. Days, who designed it, and ask him if we could do that. And if the board would do that, we would certainly welcome that.
Well, I mean, it certainly would have zero impact on coverage, because the steps would be protruding onto what's already impervious. I mean, I guess it's more a question for.
For the client.
Would you like a bigger deck or a smaller deck? Has she been
Well,
sworn
she
in
needs to
yet?
be sworn.
Yep, may I have your full name, please? Spell your first name.
A-N-E-T.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Step over here.
Hello, thank you. Sorry it's so late. I love Margate, love the home. We love it. We have 3 kids, a dog. Unfortunately, the deck is very small. We have like a chair, and I put my feet up on an ottoman, and I would love just a 411, small couch, just so, you know, I could lie down, read a book. It's my happy place. Love this place, and just want to be able to use it more. To be honest, it's, you know, in order, my legs are over a seat, I'm holding up, so just to be able to use it. I think we went overboard asking for 5 feet last time based on we were told, oh, it wouldn't be a problem. So we're happy to take anything you can give us. We'll put grass, we'll put bushes, you guys tell us what to do. We really appreciate it. I would definitely love this summer to just be able to lie on the porch and drink coffee, maybe a glass of wine, and that's it. But please, really, really, that's the only thing that doesn't make this house. I don't want to move. I love it, and just, you know, appreciate it.
I'd like you to tell, that's great.
Yeah.
I'd like you to tell the board, in your experience, backing out of your driveway, has there been a problem? Tell the board how that works
Yeah.
with the porch and how you think it will work if the porch is extended to 3 feet.
There's no problem. First of all, it's a very busy street, as you know. There's kids everywhere. I have 3 kids myself and a million kids in and out. We don't look over the bushes when we reverse. We look to the left. You have to pull backwards all the way and go really slow. There's a car parked to the right, to the left. There's a car behind us. It's not an easy reverse. So you really have to take your time, and that 2 feet is not going to make a difference because visually there's enough space to still see, you know, what's coming. We love it. I've spoken to the neighbors on the right, the left, across from us. These are our neighbors. And when we went 5 feet, they were like, you know, but just that 2 feet makes such a big difference to be able to just use it.
Now, I would like to tell the board that it's important for your future recuperation, something that you're facing, that,
You don't have to.
No, it's okay.
Please.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. The usability is important for that.
Thank
That's
you.
the only reason I bring it
Anything else?
up. Nothing at this time, and we're here certainly to answer any questions the board may have.
I don't think
Thank you
there's
for
any
your
questions.
consideration.
Any questions? State. Anyone from the public like to briefly comment? You have to come up and be sworn in. You're someone from the public. You have to be sworn in first.
May I have your full name
Shari Rosenberg,
and your home address?
down here,
Yes.
9607 Atlantic Avenue.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I
so help you
do.
God? Thank you.
I just want to say, I walk by her house every single day. It's immaculate, it's beautiful. Her children, her dog, her cars, you never see anything. Whatever she's going to do is going to be perfect and beautiful. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Public portion is closed. Stan, would you read this?
Excuse me, this application is for C variance relief. Essentially, the landscape area is going to remain the same as it is right now, and because of the expansion of the porch, there needs to be variances for that, which are technical variances. The front yard is the porch, requirement's 11.7 feet. The existing's 8.34 feet. The proposed is 5.88 feet, so it's approximately a 2.5 foot expansion for the small section of the porch. The conditions will be those set forth in Mr. McLarnin's report.
I hear the motion.
I'll make a motion.
She made the motion. Who seconded?
Jimmy.
Jim second.
Mr. Chairman, may I just ask a question for point of information? In light of Mr. McLaren's suggestion, are we now moving for a?
Yes.
Thank you.
So for the steps, that's
Well,
going to be.
she didn't answer the question if she wanted a bigger porch or smaller
Oh,
porch.
I think she jumped over,
Okay.
saying, I think she was about to jump over the dais to answer that in the affirmative.
close is that going to bring the steps though? To the side?
The steps don't count.
Well, they go into the sidewalk.
No, they won't.
Right.
That's
what I'm asking.
They're gonna come out they're gonna come exactly 2.9 feet out. And we're already,
You're still shy of the sidewalk.
Yes,
by a bunch.
by 2 or 3 feet.
Okay,
Tom
Miss-
Collins?
We can bring the deck up 2.9.
Shh.
Tom Collins?
After an excellent presentation by your counsel there, I actually think this is very, very de minimis. You're staying within the envelope of your property. I go by that street winter and summer a lot, and the house is always immaculate, well-kept. I can't see that this causing any detriment to the neighborhood. I think it's going to be nice. It's a shame the other lots are so deep that you're penalized a little bit, but I think it meets all the criteria for positive, and I vote yes.
Clem Wozleski?
I think Roger's point is very valid, that the effect that this will have on future development of adjacent properties. However, that effect, according to the engineer, is a maximum of 3 inches, which I think is not significant enough to be a factor. So as long as this porch is not coming out any further than the bay window, I think it's viable. I vote for it.
Mike Richmond?
I especially think that because the existing house is already sticking out, so it's not going to block anybody's view because the porch isn't coming out further than the house. I again agree with, it's de minimis, and even though it's going to skew the setback, it's not going to be a lot. And I once it was brought to our attention, my attention, that the other lots are so much deeper than Mrs. Cohen's lot, I'm going to approve it. I'm going to vote yes.
Jim Galantino?
I remember when Jim Cristaldi built these 2 houses, I thought they were the nicest houses on the street. The front yard setback on this proposed property, I don't see a problem with, and the landscaping shouldn't be a problem. I do agree that the awning would project if they were to put it out there, but it is allowable by ordinance, so there's nothing we can do about that. I don't see any problem approving this application.
Margaret Gubernalty?
Thank you for coming back and making an amendment. Although it skews the average, I think it's a de minimis. I think it's a reasonable request. We love Margate. We want you to love Margate and sit out on your porch and enjoy it all summer and into September and October, and I approve the application.
Mike Cristaldi?
As with, I approve the application.
Rich Patterson?
As with, I approve the application.
The application passes.
Thank you.
7-0.
Thank you very much for your consideration tonight.
If it wasn't for your attorney, you never would have gotten this. He's fabulous.
Thank you.
And good looking, he's.
There's only 2 to go. I left it up there.
One to go.
One to go. Nah, is that yours? Is that mine? Is yours? Is that yours?
You said put bushes under the porch?
Made you wait till last? You're last?
The sun shines on an
Is it just you?
De minimis?
Next case is Mark and Shari Rosenberg, 9607 Atlantic Avenue, Block 30.02, Lot 8, in the MF District, to grant a C variance for combined side yard setback and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied.
That's my cue. Thank you, Board Chairman and Board members. My report is dated January 24th, 2017. Background, the applicant is seeking relief from the ordinances of the City of Margate to construct a new elevated deck within a side yard within the MF zone. The building is attached to the adjoining neighbor via a common wall, but the unit is a standalone lot within the MF zone, but follows the S25 zoning requirements by definition. There is also a proposed paver patio to be under the elevated deck. The dwelling already has 4 decks, including a rooftop deck. The zoning chart is part of the exhibit in my report, as are the documents reviewed. Basically, the variances required are combined side yard setbacks, whereas 14.8 feet is required and 7.7 feet is proposed to the elevated deck. The comments are as follows. The lot is fee simple, is to be considered a single-family dwelling. Are there any waivers requested?
I believe I submitted correspondence with respect to the waivers.
Okay.
The waiver being requested is to have to update the survey. That was all. I think Peter can testify or Sherry can testify that the property's been the same since the 70s.
I did a site visit myself, and I would concur with that, so I would support granting any waivers requested. Use the mic.
Thank you.
I have no further comment.
Thank you, Mr. McLaren. Members of the board, Chris Balance on behalf of Mark and Shari Rosenberg, owners of 9607 Atlantic Avenue, which is the end unit of the inline townhouses across from 9600, all on fee simple lots. The Rosenbergs have the benefit of owning the end unit on the Atlantic City side, which lines up with the driveway on Pacific. So they have about a 20-foot side yard, which has really done nothing over the years but remain open and empty. What they propose to do is, as you've seen on the plan, is hopefully construct a deck of about 12 feet coming out of their first floor living space. As a result of that deck, what they will require is a combined side yard setback of 7.7 feet, where about 15 feet is required, which I don't think they'd ever meet because they have a 0 setback on the inside lot line because of the attached product. Certain hardship is available, I think, to talk about, as well as the C2 criteria. And the C2 criteria, I think I could touch upon the fact that what the Rosenbergs are offering with the plan is a rather extensive landscape plan for the entirety of the yard on a property that has seen relatively few exterior improvements in about 50 years. With that, I'll let Peter touch upon what the plan he's prepared, and Sherry's here if anybody would have any questions to her. Let me wrap up. Peter?
State your name for the record.
Peter Weiss.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Peter, was
Sorry?
Over here.
I'm just gonna stand right.
Peter, would you kindly take the board through the plan that you've prepared?
One of you each take a mic, please.
I'll go down here.
There's a second one right here.
Peter, would you kindly take the board through the plan?
Would you speak into the mic, please?
Thanks. I'm working on it there.
It's okay.
It's like a smaller deck or- Peter, would you kindly take the board through the plan and what's been prepared for the Rosenbergs and the variance being requested?
Okay, yes.
Is that okay, is it on?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Okay, so the existing, as Chris mentioned, the existing building is the end of a string of attached units. This lot is effectively double the size of the other lots. I think they're all about 20 feet. This one's 40 feet wide. The 20-foot on the right side is currently open, but it's just stones on the ground. There's exactly 3 shrubs on the lot that are just sort of growing up out of the stone. In the front, there's also stones between the front deck and the existing front fence. These buildings are kind of a split level, so the split front to back. So in the back, there's parking at grade, and then the main living space is directly above that, so it's effectively 1 story above grade. Now there are 3 decks, 1 in the rear, 2 in the front, which were part of the original building, of course, but those decks are only 5 foot deep, so they're kind of not really usable. You couldn't fit more than a couple chairs out there, so there's no real outdoor space. So we're trying to, take that opportunity of having all the extra side yard space to create a deck that they could put a grill out there and eat and actually enjoy the outside area.
Pete, the proposal requires just one variance, and that would be for the combined side yard. We'll explain to the board how that works.
Correct. So the requirement for the combined side yard setback for this width lot is 14.8 feet. Because we're attached to the unit on the west side, that setback, of course, is 0. So by right, we can only come out about 5 feet on the right, or the east side. And since, that, again, would just give us another 5-foot deck, which wouldn't merely be usable, we're proposing to come out further. The minimum setback for this lot would be 5 feet, so we're still exceeding the minimum by a couple of feet.
We're maintaining a setback on that east side of over 7 feet and change,
Yes,
and the minimum is 5.
correct.
With that setback, do you think there's any impact on the occupants of the building on the Atlantic City side? Where I think what you see in the photographs is it's just one window per unit, 2 top, 2 bottom.
We are going to be more than 10 feet away from the building for most of the building. There's a little projection in the rear or down the side of that thing, I guess it's the rear of that unit, where we would still be about 7.8 feet. There's one window in that particular piece of the building. But for the majority of the building that's adjacent, the side yard here, we're going to be 10.6 feet away from the adjacent building.
Did I hear you correctly? You're going to landscape everything that's stone now?
Well,
Yes, the master Don Kelly is preparing a landscape package for the entirety of that side yard, yes, on Sherry's property. Not the entirety of the development, but that's.
No, but that whole area
20-foot
that's stone and
side yard.
everything is going to be
Yes. Yes.
natural vegetation.
Yes.
Everything that's
Grass,
green
grass
on
bushes
the-
and flowers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
That can be a condition, right?
Landscape plan?
Yes.
Yes, it can. I have, Ms. Rosenberg's here who can, she's not sworn, but she'll confirm for you that the existing decks are between 4 and 5 feet deep. They're not usable. I think anybody who rides their bike by there, I don't think I've ever seen anybody outside that building, ever, whether on decks or not on the sidewalk.
I replaced those decks on there,
Yes,
never seen them out there.
thank you very much. The rooftop deck is about.
They won't hold more than 100 pounds.
The rooftop deck's about 9 flights of stairs up, and also she tells me it doesn't get used. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Is anyone here from the public that would like to speak?
I
Public
have a
portion is
question.
closed. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead,
Thank
please.
you very much. Showing on the drawing here, is that a shower that's under the deck?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's enough clearance, huh? Okay.
Hard to decipher on your plan here, Peter, but you have a shower tucked in, you show like a skirting under the stairs.
We were
But you're
going to
showing-
close just underneath the stair for storage. So the whole area underneath would be open except for the shower and underneath the stair itself.
And then everything else would just be wide open to the air.
Yes.
Okay, this is an application for C variance relief, essentially for one variance, combined side yard setback requirements 14.74 feet. Proposed is 7.7 feet. Conditions are that the landscape plan set forth will be part of the final plan. So it'll be a motion in the affirmative for the variance and those conditions. Well, and also anything, and also for the granting of the waiver for an updated survey. So we need a motion for those, the waiver and the,
Can I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll
Second.
Tom Collins?
The, actually, the benefits to to your property and to the neighborhood by the landscaping and the design, I think far outweigh any detriments that might be caused by that deck. I don't know why you want to put a deck there, because that wind tunnel, you can get blown off of it from the 9600. But I don't see any negative impact. I think it's kind of silly that we're penalizing a shared wall property by having a combined setback, even though it's single family. I know it's a law, but it just doesn't make sense that you should have to add it to the other side. It's silly. So I vote in favor of it.
Clem Osladowski?
I spent some time at that site, and I pictured myself up on that deck. Then I looked at the building adjacent.
Did you have a bathing suit on?
No, it was pretty chilly. Chris mentioned 2 or 4 windows.
I'm trying to
opposite
picture
it.
that now.
That's true, directly opposite. But the whole back wall of that adjacent building has windows in it. There must be 12, 14 of them. If I was an occupant of one of those units, well, sound doesn't travel in a straight line. I don't care. They would be affected.
This is Clem's vote.
If I lived in one of those adjacent units, I would object to this. I vote no.
Mike Richmond?
I'm assuming all those people were notified,
Yes.
and nobody's here. So, other than that, I don't really see any detriment to the neighborhood. And if it was, I would assume people would come and object to it, so I'm gonna vote yes.
Jim Galantino?
It's a good point though, Clem. I'm glad you're up there on that deck. As to the variance for the side yard it's a combined side yard setbacks?
Yes.
I think that, I don't see any problem with the application and I approve it.
Margaret Gubernalty?
I agree with Mr. Galantino. I did initially have concerns about the people who lived in the building looking down onto the deck, but obviously no one's here who's concerned, so I vote in favor.
Mike Cristaldi?
I'm gonna stay out of the argument with the windows. I see no problem with the deck. I approve.
Rich Patterson?
I think the landscaping is a big plus for the neighborhood. I think natural vegetation has a much better sound absorbing quality than the rock that's there, so I think it'll be a little quieter for the neighbors, so I approve.
The application passes 6-1.
The vegetation's down here. I think so.
Whatever.
It'd be nice if we get them to do something across the front.
Chris?
The fenced-in yards across the front and the stone, that's terrible looking. All the way across the front.
I am.
You are. I'm just saying, no, I know you are. That's what I mean. They're all fee simple and, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
Good luck with it. Master. Master.
Nope.
No, I'm used to it. You should see him put the fish on a bait on the hook. I'm used to it. Yeah. It's very late. Right, sit down, right now.
Oh, gosh,
Roger? Roger?
Real quick, new business.
Hold it.
It's on the record?
Yes.
Oh, gosh. You say that.
Better work for her last meal.
All right.
As you're aware, that the city is undergoing a master plan reexamination.
One of a big deck or a little deck?
Master deck builder.
I didn't take that down.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did or didn't? On your last night, you should have.
That was Mike, by the way. The master plan update is as follows. We need to schedule a special meeting sometime in February to present to the board the master plan revision and notice the public. And as you're aware, we cannot adopt and review any ordinance changes until the master plan is adopted by the planning board. So we will let you know when that's going to happen. The other item of business is I would like to schedule or organize a subcommittee to meet once a month with select members of the planning board, not to form a quorum, and some members of the community, just to review ordinances on a month-by-month basis that pop up, and to make recommendations to the board and ultimately the governing body to make changes. So I know there's been some volunteers, Pinky, is that one? No?
She did that, yeah.
Really busy, yeah.
But actually Pete Weiss has volunteered to be part of the subcommittee, but I think it's a good idea. I just want your blessing to proceed with that, and we'll get some names together.
You can do it, right? I can't do it. I'll be your alternate. No, he's as the chairman. The chairman or sub-chairman is one person.
Can we do like, instead of the same people every month being,
You can select 3 members, one can be an alternate.
but I mean,
No, this is not that big a deal. I think one person should be able to do it. If you can't make it, then
that's
get
gonna
a
be twice a
substitute.
month then.
Once a month.
We're doing this once a month.
It's at 10 o'clock in the morning.
It'll be during the day.
Oh, during the day?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
It'll be about an hour.
Yeah, one of them really good drinking.
He drinks at 10 o'clock.
Clemens volunteered as well, and Mike Richmond, and perhaps one other board member.
I'll go.
And Pete Weiss, there'll be 5 of us. I'll be a member of the committee also.
Okay, who is
You
it?
wanna come?
Mike Richmond, Mike
You
Cristaldi,
want?
Pete Weiss,
Myself,
and Clem?
And,
Remy wants to do it.
what's your name?
well, that'll be 4 board members. I think we should only have 3.
Well, I would like Remy to do it.
I like Remy to do it.
Remy doesn't get
Yeah.
to say much, yeah.
Somebody's gotta step down there.
Me, I stepped down.
Mike stepped down and Remy took his place.
Remy took my place, that's very good.
We need a female on there.
No, I said Remy.
I agree.
I agree.
How many do we have? 3? Planning board?
Yes.
Richmond, Wozleski, Pelosi,
Yes.
and McLaurin.
Yes.
Okay, so it's good. Roger.
Okay, as for the next meeting to introduce the master plan, we need a date.
I thought we came up with a date.
I need
We
at
did, but
least
it's
2
not-
weeks
yeah.
to notify.
We need to, also we need to
I'll
submit
be
it
going
to
the first 2 weeks.
Marport, Egg Harbor Township,
and notify
and county.
Atlantic City and back.
Not Atlantic City, EHT, Beckner, Longport.
Get a calendar and a dartboard.
No, I thought we had already discussed it.
Yeah, but that's, we're not gonna need that.
Oh, we won't, okay.
I'm staying at Tom's place first 2 weeks of February.
Yes.
Or so it might be after that.
He said he wouldn't be there, so.
Yeah, we need to have notice.
So it'll be March.
It needs to be public notice.
This is just, the meeting is just regarding the master plan, and it's for the public to come in and hear it and get a presentation.
You get 10 days.
Right.
So it'll be a different date other than this.
It will not be this meeting, right? It will be specifically for,
Whenever you say.
it'll be in the evening.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Is a Tuesday a convenient night for everyone? Dan, you have other, you can't do Tuesdays, you're closed.
I don't want to go
I'm good Tuesday, but
Roger's not.
okay, so
Rogers night.
other nights, just let me know, because it depends on what.
So tentatively, the first week in March is okay.
Okay, Johanna will notify everybody by email, and then we'll get a consensus at that point.
Yes.
One other thing,
Tuesday, March 7th.
Roger can't do it on Tuesday. Johanna will notify us when she thinks it can be. One other thing I want to bring up based on tonight's meeting is I was always under the impression that the pool had to be 6 feet from the fence, not the property line. And if that's not the case, I would like us to make a recommendation to the city fathers to adjust that.
Can I recommend that or find out too?
I thought we said that it had to be 3 feet away from anything for a walkway around it for safety.
I thought we did too. I was just shocked that it came up tonight that they
Yeah.
didn't have to be away from the fence.
I thought we were 6 feet from the fence and 3 feet from anything.
When we
And Tom
changed
had
it-
brought up shrubbery.
When we changed it from 10 feet to 6 foot, said there was gonna be no exceptions, and the reason for the 6 foot was you can't climb over the fence. We wanted 6 foot clearance before they got to the pool.
I thought we wanted 3 foot clear.
Yeah, 3.
6 foot.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, yes.
I think 6 feet is too much.
It was 10 feet.
No, I'm talking about from the inside of the fence to the pool. I don't think,
I
I
thought
mean,
that was 3 feet.
if you're gonna jump over the fence, if you have 3 feet to land, you're not gonna land in the pool.
Right.
So I think 3 feet is okay. I think 6 feet's too far. Unless you do a belly flop, even then, you gotta be over 6 feet.
Hence, this is the reason why the subcommittee will be occurring.
Okay.
But we already did the pool being 6 feet back.
But you're telling me
From the
now that,
property line.
but that's what, I thought it was
Right.
from
I
the
think
fence.
they adopted it from the property line for some reason.
Because it said 10
So-
foot from the property line.
We would leave it 6 foot from the property line, but it has to be at least a minimum of 3 feet from any fences.
Well, if
That's
it's
what
0
Tom
from a
did,
fence,
Tom.
then I
That's
have no
not good.
problem.
Right.
I think
Okay.
Tom's right, exactly.
Yeah,
Because I think it was Desmond and Tom that were,
Yeah, I'm
Doing,
saying 0 from the fence is no
No.
good. So if 3
No.
feet is, if that's fine, fine, but we can't drop the 6 feet from the property line.
Did anybody ask Roger McLaren what the state regulations are for pool or for Jimmy Galantino? Because they make different requirements.
is there a requirement, Pete?
No state safety for pools? I thought there was. I'm saying distance for a gable, for a gated pool.
You burnt?
Well, we don't want that anyway, so, okay.
That's
All right, well, then the subcommittee will take that up. Do I hear a motion to
I hear a
adjourn?
motion.
Second.
I'm sorry, did you want to say any more, or you want to get out of here? Okay.
Okay,
Oh,
Jackie,
and also, we need to honor Jackie.
Jackie,
Jackie, would you stand up on the table,
you
please?
started the planning board when I was on the planning board.
Yes,
Tom and I think, were your first, and the planning board would like to thank you for all your years of service and
Thank
all
you.
that you've done, and this is from all of us.
Oh, thank you.
Best wishes.
Yeah,
We'll definitely miss you.
thank you.
Can I request that we get these end speakers?